O God, may your spirit and guidance be in us as we work for the benefit for all our people, for peace and justice in our land, and for the constant recognition of the dignity and aspirations of those whom we serve. Amen.
Minister Statement. Honorable Premier, Madam Speaker, tu ka tanya oze nyoni naki government tanti ke kuit ache ke se yu ajiga lai tache ke. Moni ze kula the government si Northwest Territory si na hega kodi ji de gaudi ze kanti ko kalan taze ze kodi ze. The county Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the kako di nandegi si the COVID the honda me the honda huti na ko sagoti. County wa kala etlega laita cho legislative assembly ga. Tu tene si ka mega report to the ko the report si la aron Yundi gai dagwa di zeke, aji di zeke hu na ze mo wa se yu mo rat. Ya mo na ze da na ze karu shindi. Yundi gai la government ka si ge si. Dan di di only indigenous government ko the Intergovernmental Council, ko the NWT Council leaders, modern treaty ko the self-government partners. Die formed hitsi met zich horen met dat die daar de indigenous government go galaita. Ik leer zich keizig uit aan daar niet die zich go galaita. The United Nations die fles holy zich horen daar naar het niet liet zich keizig. God zei shoot die gaan die gadi niet GNWT zich keizig die zei li kohule lagot niet zich keizig met Son si kayan di gazanda, tu desi gotin de. Government si ka son report ke ko seni tagenyo yundi thala ton nolan dian. Izeke tu ta zeke juga 2026 ko zan. Ta disi kandi ka zan leani de tu tazi islam ga ko zesi kandi muta. The Somba la early learning child care strategy on. Ta metao de the aron de tanaz de chezeke family healthy family program ko ze kweze ke shu ko ze ko sana si kandi si the onze dian de asime ga laita. Madam Speaker, the kadi de si gaita the pandemic na ke sa ko. Da indi gai ka mogana hute da asiu ka manute le sidu se du ka magala da me se honda na ga ne zai tu te ko tinde ga business si ka asi son me gai ta me wana hite ki choke lu ga da yu liu de Tyson Hydro issue ne charging la Slavey River corridor ke Mackenzie Valley Highway issue Indeed, I would say Shuka federal funding is Frank Channel Bridge and Inito, a new runway issue in a charter. Nakiaka Kathiti, Aurora College Polytech University. A GCD College, Aurora College Act, Inito, Kota Shuasita Casey, Meteoane, Zuko, Tituta, Kuakotane Tezuko, Kotai, Atu, Leti Kota, Kegote. Ajidi the economy the case. The Atagulia got it the case you got and Roma got an earth. Indeed, indigenous government, indigenous organization, Kota government, Kosana Nahut is you. Aron the case in Magaita, the Atagulia got it the case. Two guys, Sila Magaita, that 2030 was the energy strategy action plan as Hitler. Yamatai Kotsandia. The another project that Casey got on the transmission lines that Casey on and you win project here. Just corner see gaita, come gaita, the pandemic honda, I see corner you cut out there, the COVID they see, metaka do not had, when you need to call you call. The indigenous government, community government, to federal, intergovernment, industry, non-organizations, because the Tunisia Rome member legislative, to Talosi Koni, ni demo goods and the Azon, Ajidi Gala Tazeke. Madam Speaker, Tikola Siet Selande. Ajidi Zekega like Tazeke Zidute Kotlindera. Tisi Machine Sedute Sound Undu Kigago, Tisi Downdy Zatagrandi, Soundy, Ese Dagogela, Ese Jizekigaganda. Machine said the government Siakala to Kotazi, Kogalagenda, Gozegakala, Nakina, the two second half of the tina, Edegoli. Masi niti as go to the Kigasi, Kala Kegalaita as go, Masinese, Masi. Minister Statement, Minister of Agriculture, Culture and Implant. Madam Speaker, tuts in a pink shirt, they are with it. Downty, let's Asiti Zani, pink shirt like 2007 Amoni, Nova Scotia. David Shepard, Travis Price, the county, Suta, Miko Gaza, Dedi, the Tlakuniji, Jukuganisi. 15 years later, pink shirt they see, Arjonza, I go to school, Kota, Hotigarati Day, Arjon, pink Tazeti. Dugai, see Kakala Kakoti, Magazanda. Mese one taisi telecandisi go zaiti, go now the Amerigate, Amedi Kakada as a Kijeta, Tago Zao the Amits discharge go. Masinese, the pink Nashi Dusen, Jomagaita, Naki, Tenata Thija, the pink shirt day. Hajina had say, see, Nadita Quenco the Kandico Gunezugo, Kokiaza, the jar, Tuta, Celisi Tiago the city. The two thousand Ketiago get Celisi, you bowling the Kizia, Ronla, the workplace online school the Kian. Taiji the Kizi Metagozanichi, he let any then, Squatanichi, Candiago Ole. The pandemic the Kiziga Galana Tagun, you got to lay at its IT. The Honda Tazo Gahekonezugo or the corny day. The car like his teacher, Pagota, Kota to go to Cadisia Rosico, Conjugo Giditi as on, and then is on the Zuna Heko on. Antigo Gonizati day, must hit any day, got anything, Azona has any day, Metra Gulia Gute. Department of Education, Culture, Employment, etc. Must see good the Health and Social Service Security was that target in the Honda. The pandemic is come Magazana, Nizot. The Asitake in that Chago the Thinic Mogwande. Cause any day, Mecha on a dati. The Cagotini day, Kotaka, Nakia roll Malatiti. Azon Tadit is a case to Tanagaganda. Tanakiguan is unita, Senate, Azonzi Cardinde, Letiti as a go. Masi Nithia, Masi. River South. Cut the pandemic the case, Hutli Meta na Tawati Ijizeke. Metehonetasu, Magaita. There are wrong the case la Modat in the Metehonda Modat. Madam Speaker, this case la Gatsanda. Dene Zhatıé County go Quaco Jageti, ente ka kuzazen diazo dana son kandi kage dilik kege data tatsuguzi ni yuzi hodati di pandemic ji hodata kandida dana son meta gulia gucha ko guli kage ni a zona hi program daji ji kandisi yedeti lage utli da madam speaker 디체키시 가전다 다 뒤뒤시 메가전다 저거 먹었다 다디클라 지나히테 먹었자 다니데미게 가라전다 다 디체키시야 사모다 딘데네즈가 다 디체키시라카 메교드의 조는 다 디체키 단디고 메타고 짜전디야 저거 오디디다고네 주고 오시들레 메타고 짜전디 니즈니 티 자자우 데 지제 가양디 다 로메셀라 디아 시제케 코 트위라 치아즈데 디제케 아 로메셀라 나이티 치레슈 에 간디 지제케 오 mental health 온데 메제하 우티 메데티 디 pandemic 제 혼나다 야 메제하다 아제 healthcare system 시 야에 칸아 제고 겐데 아즈고 당디아티 데제케시 가데 다티 제키 칸디 가자 예니데 니즈웨사제 리아스고 아시제키 무덴 딜레시 지다 제온데레 데 온전에 주 코타사나자기 데리고 자이티아스고 Northwest Territories 케이시 카 칼라시 토디 government 인디게데 아스고 디 pandemic하고 디지제케지 mental health 케이시야 the ministry health 제키 government 제케시 세 내주니라 post pandemic 년하 컨텐데 아조 드네시 뛰고 자우디 마시 마시 Madam Speaker 네낙 부탁해지 쿠에제케 이 고제군의 주아제 대제기 용우진 지원 13% 시단에서 나야때 괴기 괴제기 28 괴슈 세나오제 되어지고 25% 나제 괴시 세제를 에코카딘디 보퍼 델타 아시송 디 mental health 케이시 나헤케세오 디 메지호다 사이즈 디테 코티에 다시틀이야 다운디 세시틀이야 이제케 아미 슈제 구데야 이제케지 갖고 다시 가 지카 꼬니야기데 고자 꼬니 휘야구리 이나탄나나탄 코티고나게 테 후티 소게레데 이 퀘키 퀘제케 세젤리아즈고 JWT 손바체 KOCI니 데서 라이딩 제니데 에타이토와 22, 23, 5% 조나가기 디제키 에티오델레지 퀘제케 줄라이 조란디 세고진라 인디가 힌투라 한다 산티 퀘라 단디야 Madam Speaker 예시 까까라나케서 코타제케 낙푸제케시 So 디제 단테 가고 자 퀘다 나게데 이시다 메가이타즈고 오티코네 주나츠테 코네 주고 교티린데 오티자즈티 이야자가전 다즈고 메가즈나타 퀘제케 에세가라이 다즈고 Madam Speaker 카시네 차데 카메 교디죠 Kandio Minister he got the government he gogalai tiny catuli sedite to te the nag pujadashi masino te ministry tide of Kennedy. Frame Lake. January 25th workshop, the hydrogen power north ke gazanda the gas ke dane de ga go de si ka de si gazanda ji te ke metane Nezu agon denite. Me a workshop asita. Ya ronze kesi gazanda. Di te keshuka hydrodashagoti. Hajiri te kesi di hydrogen power te kesi ka dia metao de desi ji te ke me a workshop asita. Tira shu te jida shu iti kone o se ji te ke shugaita. Asine chawne di workshop te ke tauno tane ye ke dati ko te GNWT te ke federal government te ke indigenous government corporation te ke NCOs a ronde ke business workshop lo me te honda jikyo te jo te ke au te khadu di ya di workshop si tlaune te workshop NWT te 89 sa di sa chonsi mechine Charles gaita di hydrogen noise te ke di tuze ke down gas on tele na is a kezi Edmonton to Calgary JC Shigojira me the pilot project kezi gaita ta jisi me the honda na hezandi hajiri te kezi tile meta senyuni ta te kezi menda di gaita ta di carbon tax shuisi ta di na zandi a ju me gaita to te gotin de kantine to tile se ko te ti ita ji te kesi gaita da juisi ka kondi go ondi di kesi me ga plan go te tsiaz go ko te continue te ani de tenesi ga lai te si kandi di te yudane ge chu go te workshop ge liaz go kandi de zo sa tule a ji te kyo te se me galat no te minister ta du kenendi masi the economic te kesi la te ke nai now set te ke you going de Mackenzie Valley Highway shu Madam Speaker the agent te kesi gatan da territorial national leader te kesi kala gaita tu te nahi te kesi gaita the Dempster Highway te ke New Waters Prime Minister John Diefenbaker si kui si di kanti si ke lui su chindi la ji kanti holi kanti o megai ta go di ke de te ita te Mackenzie Highway si holi chine ta ita se ti ago ta no te se kli kwe rigli se shu 1972 ke lui 1994 na ute Ejize ke gazanda, ejizi mega construction kambia gunli. Ita di 2014 isi la di old territorial government gulia la. Ita ejize kisi la di Norman World se tu lezi kagin lale. Ya na ki du megazanda, Mackenzie Valley Impact Review Board si kaganeto. 다가 깔아도 저제 가고지 이제 계시라 간디 가제 레가니 데 2015 고제시 디오노데 이제 게 야종디 마켄지 하이웨이 제 계시야 2000시 코고 타난데레 전다디오 텔레데코 시카모고 시아즈고 디아조고 틴데 제게 가데시 이주카고 제가 저거세 Tati te kia rona ki komikurash. The project is si bewanuit indenezuga. Handini dese nezuga azelea. Handine zo satule nezue te ga nyunitati te kia. Ta chieze ki oshu. Tauti megaitale ti te kia. Mackenzie Valley project te kia. Madam Speaker, the highway project is seen menandile, imetare are. di ke lu ze ke si se ko ta ze ke si la di Cecilia ze hi di ke lu ko ni si tui men da ze le ze ke tourism ga shu me ga ke lu se go ze hi ye ta ya de ta di si sa tu de chu region zo de le ha ro no WTI des ita no de infrastructure no de ni de ministry ta de kenen di masi Great Slave. The mental health crisis ki wokonde tukte kotlinde the Dene Zhatıé provincial government si somba naraguli dice ke chu dashi kandi mental health ta ke asi gayan kocho ti sane ze yago la ze ke si ya somba ni chuli kuri Alberta children si la kata oze diaja the mental health ke ya Honeno gai si go cha mental health te kotlin de ze ke si tia ron ko ta tu te kotlin de o suicide te oze diode tene tlade gite ya si ne chaude ta ji ze ke yen da de ke ne taula inda mulan de zo le ko tu te ga di ti ko ze tu te si na him gai ta zo nene ve chu ka gondi uti gogo Tichu dashi hone no silago gayeshi gazanda ka oji uki ze keji sama cha ko ze dika ko ti the mental health crisis ko ti ni de dang dia la ja ko zai di dang di se ko si lia dang di da ko ze report se si gai da da di mo da di le da den kan di si on de ni de 온다 치쿠 온다 간디시고 저건 데데네즈가 이지 간디니 데조 사투레 사제디 데제 계지고 건데 아종 government resource 계지 간디 이가라겐 다니 데네즈가 안데네조 아디 mental health 계지 가투레 메 세니지야 뒤나 키제 계지가 있다 디 mental health 계지 되게 고딘데게 NWT 네네 데세 di oza uti diode di suicide zekega. Ta di zekezi gazanda. A ji zeke la ni tea di mental health zeke galagi desio. Ta di mora di le ji zeke. Tana tlewa go zazan diode le di zekezi ya. A zoza yun da za zoa go ze diode le. Kata oza ne zoa ze le ani de joza la hina he galagenda go galai da zon. Ne zua ze liazigo masin. Mon fils. Tita mogo se 19 ze keji mago report ati la tutte kotin de ze ke dandi nat that's a dizeki. Ye si la clean chon region si ka ca go zhen ki go zhe go za zin di le go zhe shu ki shu go zao di le. Yi zhe ke la ki go government territories go za gin di le la dan de ga go zhe ki tao di go za gin di le di ve she kong. Dene Zhatıé di tlude ke oju tue ko de jia ko dande tletse ko zendia ko de ji de ozen ne zwa sitlia zo kulia ko de liazo dan di ko zai dia di na ho ti ze ke ji de health ze ke govern Northwest Territories a ji de ta ke ti ze ke ji la ki me ke gala ta le government si indigenous people si ko gala kan ta zo go the country report guy dashi the chance KG 6% on the population to take out in there. Can't go out the CC, Bella goes out the Moratile. Kosana NWT the Kany de reporter see, get the clean choice, edition yonde jite ke unemployment ke tauti ko te kuakone te ke yonde hal income to ta ke nagete ko te tene son tanayete elena ke te ko te chu tene shuton target a zonte ke ga konda dani de NWT te ke si gatan dani de there is Canada one ke de an opportunity in London la hodati na hiji te ke gatan dani dati te ke si NWT te ke Dene si te tu targeting ko twira targeting ko te hutli juagite ko te shuko somba ke de tiago akureji tiji hone ta tane te ga ko te ji khandi ko ko kone zugo gendile e jite hone ta de ti ka mo te ta zong ko sane a zong ko ta te ke ji te na ya te si te ke ju ko zen da zhe du esa ti khandi te ke ji mo ku ti a zgo a ji te ke ga la ta le chi me ka zen ta si ko ni yin a zni si a si mo go te ta ni de mo go te ta ni de si ne zu za ma ni te a ko sane recently change le a zong ko tin de ga di e te tsai ti a zgo di region je is not the minister tai de Kennedy masindi Yellowknife North masi du te ke NWTGC tene e jali de sulai zezo ko te jagi lia de sulai zeta khani de la jan ne de khandi ne zan di ele kiti ya yo kon de du NWT te ke si paid sick leave nikini one den ne ja khandi za de khwa ge ti ya du le ko tene chi e jagi dini de khwa age tin de ne ja ti te ke kaji te ke khandi de sa ne ja ti khandi de zo tu le ko chai ti estile guago on estite te de tilde la te du thale yin de zo ka me je honda tane sonji hon ji e jaisi ko thaye le cha ga ge ti employees yade da ji ze ke paid sick leave se si te ozen ne ja jin la de ne ja ji te ke si ti yundi mo gunde yogo gunde ti minister I take paid sick leave take si I za kya ut ya zo ke ti khandi a go ole ko ti paid sick leave take ga khandi si ni de amila go ta kha de tha gu de gi te ni de ji ze ke ga zan da ze go a ro de ne si khandi si de ne ge ha si khandi ka ge ne tha ze go ti ze ke ta ti GWT ze ke de ko ga zan da no tende minister tai du Kennedy zekia masin Camlick du around the crazy pandemic da the mental health zeki hutlia gucha March 2020 is the crazy around the mental health support si go da go zao dia ka go chale is the pandemic ji honda ta ti ze ke si kan di si na ne de ne su go wa go ne te wan thir zo go wa go ne ta ti ze ke si ga zan da tu te go tin de ze ke a ta di go wa go ne te ze ke go za gen di ta ne kan di ni de kai ke ga la ki de si ga ga zan da zo dia zhong de ge xi guo ga guo ne tong zhe guo ga guo ne tai zhe ge xi mo da dia zhe guo da la qi de wo dan di se wo qi zhe ge kan de ne zo ma ga zhe dia du le da di na le de ne xi guo mo guo ni ya ge li zhi ye da hu li da ge a yi zhe ge da de xi di pandemic a guo di zhe ho le da ka mentadi quite does go. The mental health she metada on. Gone zungo tendishu metada. Yezamo good as go. Dio sejo. The dazzle pandemic that has a want to go. 51 billion is hard. Cantigo is 500,000 see. Dio mental health cattle. A ron the kid like his own part like it osi. Tu desi a ron. Esi go target le. Dinaza zete ke gune zuazi te ke a ron. Ijigo sanea diti. The Coquazeti, Conezugo and Dizeki, de Cozaiti as a go, Conezunat Dizeki, Dinazon, till the Cozaiti. The government like Hiati, Sigadi, Keguta Ani de Ka, Cozaiti ni Denizua, a Jonte Kesia. Cotashu Cozaiti ni de Nizue Saga Nese. Due good lead out on the mental health Kenagon near. Mezaiti as a go ne as a go, Cotacone Zwazi tissue, Massin. Massi, Madam Speaker, Madam Evelyn Kruko Gusendi, Evelyn Macpherson, Effie and Mike Kruko. Ejia Sakatana de Gagohulu. Evelyn, me bade yaguni, Joteoki, Chiteneju, Taji Tekesi Kandi. Evelyn, Ejia the old Tekesi Arts and Science Tekesi Kandi, Title Quinzati, 1979 Metagard, Titlemo Uchu, GNWT Teke Renewable George Kogalanda. He was a new veteran officer in La Asia, Metanewata Isle Rock, Coteti, the fourth province, GQ, the Nice, Equity, Galinda, Evelyn. Is your officer, user officer, Evelyn, Metaneshu, Alice, Conjai, the Casif, 1984 province, the Nugget. Evelyn, wildlife officer on to Eku. ENR Sita KC, Nizum, Huti de Lagal and Dazelion Teleco, hunters and trappers, she Nizum Aginizia Gagnet. That Antico Condeani Denichudele, Asigo Condeani Denichudele. That Solan di Candisi. Egala in that Tenetante, Ziti, Chikyo Dizeki as a Kiwindi. Hunters and trappers at Kasiu, Gozandi. Long Sigo and the Kandi, Medesi, Sisati, Desi, go 90, Kotago Zandi. That 32 years are GNR Quite. Evelyn, Ejichu, the hockey players at sea. He held the sea DC minor hockey Kuganese for proud. He's a Casey Majai, Michael, he did Tishua hockey Konagoje, Kaku, I tell the Koka, Ko hockey Nagwaje. Fundraiser shoe, the son battered is a Casey. Metatia midi hockey Nagoje is good sadness, son battekera. Daddy did you to the Jordan Tutu is the case, Kaya Tiago Cotateja is the Evelyn Ditia Lan. Daddy so can also jetic. That is the case. That Alberta need a provincial championship Edmonton you measure I think on the quarter quite in Itayati, so can also jetic I think. Katema Oze Sika Murat. I jet on that Evelyn Kakotala Zandi. A Jean Sita Zikotago Zandi, the Fort Proud. Kala can DC, Council Ligaga Duka Kalamahul. Got the shoe. Got the friendship center shoe. Then they guy got a Native Women's Society got the 송랑디 고 잔디 고타 제케지 다제 제케지 고제 온다시 야우티 고디차 고자인디 헬 카 휘티 메테아 막퍼슨 제케 고제 모티시아 조시 두관지 메테네 알 메자 Helena Mike 고제지 my 4 grandchildren Felix Adri Giaron Heta Ka Monsieur Tajon Masino Sini Diti Ta Tanesi Ageti Koteshi Nezuanen de Koti Klasi no Disi Tekesi Ta Nakisi Aromotisi Masiditi as going to Evelyn Kruko Masini. Nahende Masi, Mr. Speaker, Tech Choice, Evelyn Kruko, Kazeli Modisha. Masi, Madam Speaker, do Rita Ro Wesila. Kota Akota Tselesi, Northern Pine, Alberta, Zenai, June 27, 1935, Ekua Meguli. Editia, the youngest daughter on the Honda Tigere, Me Moishila, Mehule, 12 Megaye, Koja, Hadia, Membarekanande, Eva, Maverick in Edmonton. The Yellowknife Honda Zatamagai Tasaja, Koja Linda, Ya Waitressly, Busy Bee Cafe, Koja Patricia Rowe, He, Mizanithil, Da Patricia, see our Yendida, Mekozayaja, Tiruquen, Ezekezi, Ya Bill White Tada Honiki, January 20, 1953, Peace. Rita Bilchu Oilfields Saskatchewan, Itaha, Ye Berwin Zagaja, Koza Jitaha, Tute Enterprise City Tijagatico Kid, Koza Hay Resi, Adi, Galantaja Bill, PJ Morrison is Koza County, Zutaganesho, 1963 TB, He, EGC, Meja Jack to own chu, Ejizahada. Edmonton Ejize Kezi Candida Agati Guacodeji Ejize Kezi Takondia Kagondia Yendi. Retired Tika, quickly volunteer at Haver. Figure skating, minor hockey, Royal Purple, Ijugo Akanti, Ko Agalinda. Hazel Hate Tissue, Titi Ashanti, Kandi figure skating Kyoganise, Yigason by Tegele Kageti. Adede Nezu, Esikagwa, Nezu Nuti, 1976 Bill and Rita, Molande Zetaga Family Farm, Ija tu Ijagati, Ita Mo Jume Cabin, Arjosi tu Modati, Kakala Kandisi, Kala Moti Zetaga Rita la County Farm, Mozamoti head. Say Esti, Hutli Gala and Damajazi. Mr. Speaker, on Russia, Mr. Ejite Lilin, Sikamo Shon, Kotesi, Kamo, Tisi, Honda, Hulisi, Kovazaguti, and the Masi. Masi.
Acknowledgements. Oral questions. Member for Frame Lake.
Call question, Frame Lake. Masi. Ministry Infrastructure Zeki. Hydrogen Power Oku Senese. Dizeki Zio. Workshop Zeki. The Minister. Dizeki la Situleo. Nazekonde. Tute Gotin Dezeki Gayendi Masi. na khesi la kha asi koni thai gai si meke ga lai ta ze ke khamoni ze ta ti si la kanti ni te kha go te khadi ti ze ke o hydrogen la kha si iti khona me ta iti o se si iti khona o se ze ke ji thu da si ji ze ke workshop ga ti stakeholders ha gi lan 예시 같은다 디제케시가 디두테 고튼데가 뭐저 멤버시고 다디 마시네세 카카라티 컨디시가 있다고 디제케시가 데테 고튼데 the other action plan asitle 2030 the energy 제케가시가 간데 히탄데 마신 Minister. The regional zekesi kandisi na hezanti azago the fossil fuel zekega the trucking and shipping zekesi the region desi kandi hydrogen power dageti minister situle na zekadin the agila nyuna zekia tu te kotlin dega taundi nyuna oyenti Naki Naganezu, tutte energy zekia, a ron region zekia, kandisi, kulia siginise. 2030, zekesi energy strategy, ka mo nesize, a ron asize sene taze honedan, tai, ze tau, ki taga go ze magalata, yoze kakalanda de gonize, aji nize zekesi, kantigo sa zekezon tele. A ron zekea de tutte kotindea, Masi minister du si zekea.
Transition, including the yet-to-be-tapped large emitter trust accounts and their ridiculously restrictive policy.
The trust account policy henitni o zeki oshu, gatanta azgo. Minister Finance chuka kandisi gatanda ajida la kulia gondea ejite ke kandini de sasita taze ze kesi kore zwa gondea ko ze kamoni ze dindi jigaznutan ejite kesi gatanda ni de ka finance ke dindi ka mokonde talo si ze kesi gatanda ni de Minister is there. She doing the conductor condition. Talo sees a key gondiana to the cargo de season. To take the somber the case here. Cast project Garcia. I wrote the case more the canny de she doing the carasindi.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Lots of issues here were raised at the recent hydrogen workshop, including the need to pose the right research questions, ensure stakeholder engagement, do life cycle analysis of options, and looking at bridging technologies. Can the Minister...
Minister, situle the hydrogen strategy the case to take out in there, situle canale yendi, masi. Kisanazete wango le kamagaita a jonze keisi ki hydrogen te keisi ka kantine te zonsa tule modati aji di te kegala ta te keisi a jon magaita de di te ke ta te gunize di hydrogen chu ka ne zu asitle azgo ne zu shu mekena o te asitle azgo tu te a rogo tinde ali masini.
Oral questions. Member for Hay River South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. These questions are for the Minister of Health. Madam Speaker, during this pandemic, we have seen a rise in youth suicides in our communities, numerous drug overdoses doses amongst our youth, rise in family violence, increased substance abuse.
90 Chile, Tiago Seke, then hit glue, then a condiga, this is a case you conte, mental health on it. Minister, with the department la chi the county method on the pandemic cycle. Nijiseke in Lenny de tu pandemic that had to go in mental health care down the Iran Diane.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the question from the member. There's no question that the pandemic has been a very stressful time. It's produced a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression.
Ka pandemic kuti metako shop da ko the kizeke ko the met service kizia. Kandiko Moni they see the case la ka mogo te guite ko the website keshu mogo te guite. Ta la heji gai ta si la na the program says services ka meta moni they la yutli jua ja pandemic oni they je honda ko te si a ji te case ta service mogo te si ta harda on te ni te gazana community council program wainda Yoshu, the Nashi Katule appointment Magatel. Kotsaini te Katule Yakaganeta Kotsazan dia Duleon, the pandemic te odeko. Da Nakiraka Kondisi Mentadi Quaita, Titeke. Ajigini Lazy Teke, Kozetandia Magwaitea, Iteke Gaita. Ka say Community Council ke program si ka se ni ni ta tu ai kan ti ni de tu je ta ko ti je ke ju je ka di ti a tu lo ja ji ni se je ke yun de je ka di ti a tu le ni ma si.
Hay River South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, will the minister tell us if her department has an action plan going forward to address mental health issues attributed to this pandemic? Thank you.
Minister la si action plan me ga se on si gang di me che yan di.
Madam Speaker, we do not at this point have a specific
Tu ki ka la kan di action plan te on le. Kan di go me ga ta che hone ta ni de ho me che ho da e kon je ko di ya tu le me ka ni ta la kha de e ji go che ni de la ki ta ti kan di member si ka kan di si ye ga ye ka na ta de ne jo
online services, out-of-territory services.
di ka la online service chu na he chen ka si ti ya de di ba si
In just in response to the minister, I do promote those supports that are out there, and as well, I get people coming into my office and provide that type of support as well, even though I'm not qualified. But people just need someone.
ka se jo gen di ji che ke wa di sin Minister si ti te ke si la si tu le mental health support na go an di.
Madam Speaker, I commend the
Member si ma si na che kon de ka si ati. Ka di services si ka se la di pandemic go te ko counseling chu ka se la an di ze ke guli child and youth care ze ke go zao di ze ke na zhen du go zhe chi la me gai ta ni de staff sa ni de ya song go ta ka ki de ne yi ze ke de yi li ji ke de ti le kwa ze ke de ko ka gong di staffing ze hon la ta yi ze ke ko ga zhen da ta yi ze ke na ki me gai ta ka la staff ko da go di ke go za ka la i tre yu da ni chua da go di ken di ma sin Di te kwe te ke gala down di la go zan di ze ke mu kyo du jane se yendi.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the question. The Child and Youth Care
The Child and Youth Care Counseling te ke se la e leonde. ECE Department Health Social Service he. Ka e te ke ni de zu ta counseling a te yan. Din ga go te si me ga thi. The 42 positions I see, I think that key the clear got a some supervisor make. You can't Dene Zhatıé do the good idea. The tech the mental health tech. Got that you do mekanita the programs that can't Dene the only as you need is to the moti social service tech the teacher car can't do you talk at second. Itaji in evaluation is makata tani they do I come on with and the machine. Madam Speaker. Minister, she do less writing years at the Kadindi. To take out in there at the writing odyssey. She do more like the Kayati. Masi. Is it a Kelaki? A member, she's a Kenak put a case in. Key, Joseph Teleco, not the member, making a good and the Masi. Minister, is it a case the is it a case say Nenak Pujisi Kakotini, they sit in a Katini.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Speaker, Masi, is it a case you Kakala, Setzeleko, co investment, a case Kandisi, Cassets, and Magaita. Not a members you magach, you need to take a in the Masini. Do chose that is a children. The units la city le he out that le did not put jersey. Continue the city le na zagendi. The court has a catule de a quince and I'll get le do I is garrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Catule go tandi. Teacher case, Mr. Riding see. The son but the cases yasser as a case did the court in there. Now it's a staff as you cock on the Yagalagan down a cattle in the Zekaziti. Is it a case the County Housing Corporation go like that a case that could I should remember that in this case. And then the public housing the Kegani there 15 see Politak in the hook too. Is Sachs Harbors 17 Politak. In the hut to take Kiragi county numbers at the Masid. Masi, Tilena Hegalanda, Masinita. Do Quenza Mecanita, Tiondazi, Zekirigatan Dada, the company Catule, Gogeti, the Ohandazi or Masinita go to Gute. Tanazagin, the Adine Gamasinita. Masi du Sinethany. Carjon Tanesico Galandala said the indigenous culture Kazi. I see the Kazis Kokoti or Quenza Vantende, a quid out with the Caritia Tulan, got any day could do, got them a death by Massini.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Infrastructure provide us an update on status of the Mackenzie Valley Highway project.
Mackenzie Valley Highway Project, Situle was a second the ministry. Mackenzie Highway Project is here, Kalakagoti. Kala Mackenzie Valley Environment Review Board Secretary. Taji take any day, Ka she take a assessment again. La Taji take him as a report in Araganida. Katuki Ragozanaki, Megaita, Ita, Mackenzie Valley Review Board is take what you do right. The project is here. Laka, Mekazane, Tonkilu Kazane to the Harat in London, the Masi.
Madam Speaker, I think the Minister has answered some of my questions, but I'm going to ask it again. Madam Speaker, can the Minister provide a timeline for when we can expect the environmental review for the Mackenzie Valley Highway to be
Tight on la di Kelu or la Taze Kizimo, Tashi doing at the Kati in the Yayan. Ka Segagani only the Environment Review Board city to Yakagana Tazo. That's such Semaga said Loni de Natural Resource Management Act of Haraga. Kandigo Zimana Hute ani there 2024. Is at the Kandizimaga Somba Salaja, the license permits the Kazi Kandi, the Haraga. Land and Water Board Secure, 2025 on it. Machine.
Supplementary, member for Tabacha.
Madam Speaker, I'm wondering if the Minister can provide clarity on something. According to the Department of Infrastructure's website, 40 of 42 bridges and 2 access roads have already
40 or 42 bridges is in Gazanda, but the decay with the Mackenzie Valley Highway. Can do construction the Casey Kikakuchale. That minister, the highway the Casey La Simoni, the construction the Kigaris in the Masi. Kala Monizile. Kala di Kelu Gagana Tago the Haransi Messalazi the Kikanet. Is it a 2018 Kuti Kelu holding lay? Is Yakakagucha. Hadio it's a Tiazon, Kotari Tatagin Diazago. Candiane. Candinezo. Tule Mackenzie Valley Highway is you. Cecily. Candigo Jim Gazana, Totla, Hada, Conimuni Yard. Do a cycloman Zuke Yasela. Because Jim Gazana Tazagon. Do Kamonize, Candigo, member that you go in Dezekisila, Ka, Mewanut, Ejiteke as a Leazoti, Kenzie Valley Wood Road Kesio. Candigo, Kabegaita as go. And you Mentatic is in a Tazekiani, Giamigo, Kotabu, Tizigo Taza the land. Tight on la Kionisia, situe la Zekati. Kachuna Zekatusi, Ka, Mawana Hut any day, got any day, Ka, Kandi, editing any day, the project check any day, a construction home easier, got a song by Ganigini line day. That is a case, Ka, got a federal Dante song by the license gilly. Radasan, got any day, Lahini day. I did it 26 years. I got to like an easy in a Sandy bus. Great sleeve.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my questions are for the Minister of Health and Social Services. The 2017 Child and Youth Mental Wellness Action Plan, 2017 to 2022, HSS identifies several departments that were to have been implemented to improve the situation for young people. As it's now 2022, can the Minister please provide an update on the plan, such as what has
Do got AC la minister city la Zekatia Jim on a hute got Zajina Zemorase with Zaji Tazale. Madam Speaker, Tizeke la ki se modishology teke report your condition. Taketa mo Zeloquatia Dulin. The mental health, the good is la or to go to la go out the Gedesia, the Hadizeki, or yet. Must member your con. I wrong the Casey Kaka on the Coco, Kojasi, the Casey Kandi, or Hotsi disease, the Ayen. It's a Ketonka Gondigo, Kamatala. Kaji the Casey Community Council na heads. Then I got out the Atulin de Court issue. Cotachu Ka did the Casey, you la Ka got out the Kegoti the Institute goes on the Atule. The court is it the Casey County go Jasi Zanti at the Kenny. The program issue the child and youth program the key is your family gasela. Got any day a Sazi could say go Contisi or get the Atule, as he said, Lasizek. That ya wrong the Kean the
Great slide.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's good to know that the families can also access the youth counsellors. It's not just for children. My next question is, does the Department of Health record statistics for children on overdose, suicide attempts, mental health assistance, medevacs, etc.? If Ontario can provide us with the statistics that 1 in 5 children are having mental health problems,
Kagotom Kyoto to take out in Dela, Chicago County recorders in La, Etanet or the end. It's a cannot take them one at the Guteria. To the mental health crisis, Ilia City to the Gotin, the minister situated Zekatian. Madam Speaker, pandemic, the Honda Hutlina Keko, that is a case Condisi Razanda. The Aromata Hutli Tetsi Tiali, the Ondako. That is the Keda, the case Condisi Mega Services at the. That two go to the Coca Cola Gudiji. Aron the Ketago the Kid the Kezi Quasiti the Kiata. Candio Kakala Chico, you want to go on it down the Leenti machine. Death show. Finance Ministry that's a budget nino. Iji kazayo guinde. Tati son budget kesiga guinde. Ta iji dela tisi. Da sulai tonno gaiwa. Atinla ultimo gonai se jekio. Kesi da kimagaita kise mo gutante chol. Kesi ganda di sompa teki gashi indigenous teki kimodatile. Jimetara na kesi tisi kago di teki waditi. Di la kala kago di tute na andege teki sia. Dati teki wada sindi. Situle o kaya tiyan. Mago ko zai tia tule tu chene kandi na ni ta de sia de sile. Yun da ka la go te la sia de ti ke me framework je hona ta. Ta 이제 계시라나 계시 같은 뭐고 저 다지고 저 가리 뒤아서고 이다 나이데 이요 세저전 데니데 에코인데 둘레 뭐고 제 카야 팀에게 카야 티야 둘레 메제 플랜 다니 도니데 아데인데 둘레 메게 고데 다시리아서고 손바제 계시가 다 야다나데시 카 아시송 가디디 카미교르 베교르주티 손바제 계시 고전 데니데 아시네 차드 아시송 메셀라 디파트먼트 계시 레갈간 다즈고 디제 계시야 다지제 계가이 다즈고 와리 야조 캐나다 지에데 코간디지 이 가가네 타데 디마시 Nakidu tezeketene Emily Hitlisi asilon mo gute indigenous government zeki. Kandu kitauti na kia utelebe za policy oshu undanigi chu dele dauti. Da sonlandi 30% landi asiti du juaja. Kotse chuki kime da asiti le di government zeki si. Di 19th assembly on the dauti agi kala kakoti.
It in any of the budgets that this issue is highlighted and budgeted for, and that's a concern. We've always spoken about the geography.
Atzoze son pao kuti dizeki kakoti dikati nyuti atzeki handu indigenous values kitauti modatile ishitawars ijana himeta na gweneni government is it is directly ketana kya na kya kese estio dele na hiuti na kego taji te keji ga zanda Dene Zhatıé di program siga hala indake ni do tue ka gon di ze hone dale du shu ta di mo da di le di government ze kesia di government website ze ta ji me ze hone da hutli nai ni se dan di hala ita ze kesia ji ze ke Kala tauti a siwo ju na o to le tauti a siwo ko di ki me na on di le landi ni ji da me ganda ji kan dia na ki me ga ta ni de di tlege sa la ni de ji Fort Providence kaya di de ke si tu le me ga action plan ni de twin de ko de cha tu le ji ya ne zo a henasa Dene de tule aji te ke gala ta te ke jina te kat the government is cut and indigenous Kikara Taki Tiziko Kugireto as a go. This is a case you want. Ministry with Doctones and the Mashi.
I can't speak to the members' personal or specific circumstances, but there's a continual renewal of the kinds of programs and policies that are available.
Hakala policy Koni, a security Koni Sizakio. Tulemokaya Chivo, edited in this case. Then a county in DC, to make Kaya Tiagon. The senior management Chugazanta, this case. Because it's home by needs as a goal, the case, Tayo Conde the case. Let us treat them, manage to Ketaka disease the Kenizia, the Kikalana Kikauni case, says it as a goal. He's some by the case. As all departments of case will can this in New Zealand as a goal. He's some by the case, with the public service they call. Can't remember last ago, did they? Can't see got a lady kai. Because the task ago, or see can't service only. Megati and this case here. I didn't get to let the Nazi got to let Kozaiti. The case. Tandira Gozas and the Kenny de Kota the case. Kozaiti as ago, it did not second years ago. Can't in the zone. The sea condition training program Musia as Rosa KD indigenous Kesia. It is the Kevatan indigenous government program. A sea corny on it. Is Yoti Gatanda, is you to Munize, Massinese. And in there are Roshit, the Tito Adule, Tanti the Kesi. Massis, Zekati, Massinese. Cut out the Kimetic Haiti. Taka, Sonlandia Sikagoti. Two frameworks or Massi, Kotigatu Mikega Laita, tis a Kesika Senita Dulen, the Juga and Massin.
My desire to
the paid sick leave won't go into education, culture, employment. Sutule paid sick leave need to end the Masi. Da Hongosan, Dene Zhatıé member. Tage Shigoka Menainise, holiday go a city le Kantizek. The pandemic, the Hora Hutli, Nahigulia Gocha. Tana Shilakati Employment Standards Act, a city, Kala Kantimiji, the city. Taji, the Horata Ka, the Nasi go Teago and the Tizekega. Tandiazel, the Zekiazi. Member, he can't see. Is new to Chinese. I think here go, but the whole Chinagon de already paid sick leave the Kigazio. The Masi, the Zekadindi, Mentadico and da, got the Mentadico tiny decatulus city and the Masi.
for stating that. I've actually had a number of businesses reach out to me during the pandemic who have introduced paid sick leave. So I suspect the number of people who are actually left in the territory without paid sick days is steadily decreasing. And I would like to thank all businesses who've taken that step. I'm actually wondering, though, if the department has any of those statistics of who in the NWT.
Dalaka County, Yakundi, Lassi County Department, County, Kyogere George Executive. Paid sick leave, Ryan. He county number nights at a call, Magaita ni de Tulemo Zekaditi. Cotzeni de Catile Mercatana Taji Zekati, Ganas Tiny Dene Zhatıé and the machine.
Madam Speaker, my questions today are for the Minister of Finance. I think it's important that we have, that we use the data that we have and that we understand the data we have and that we can use it to make.
Minister of Finance, Jitu Taidu Kene Sela, the COVID-19 case la, Tandio de the public service care. Jane Blue Tea la, Tanet or the Yite case again. As mental health leaves a carite, Kala Megaita go, general sick leaves are the Gaita. Ta teacher Casey Ka Megaita as a go, can't you call like the end the machine?
Member for Cam Lake.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. That kind of changes, I guess, some of my questions. And I understand that this is a privacy concern between employees and supervisors, but
Tilaka policy on the dark Kasiati is a Kisiga Sonta de Keneseo Kagondile. I didn't know the Ojite, but the information that Haraga and the Gazanda. Tati la city of Jane Blutigani Chutiajimo Kaya the Size Kasian. Is Masiadinti. Cantigo Kala Mecanita Kala Megaita Ajon de Casio. Cote the mental health deco. The pandemic case. Dala home, but I got out the sonti to the Gotin day. Cantigo Kabuchan members, but say. Kadusinandi. Ta tite pandemic la na jiande. Ta tu kanete tiago on kala metana de tane tanti chi de tanti agute de question. Kadio kakala so mete kadesia tule the healthcare programs ke gani de. Kakala no teni de jimo kaya tini de mo te kadesia tule ndimas.
yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And no, I thank the Minister for the willingness to have the offline conversation. And I think it'll be interesting as well to see that in the year that we're going, or the fiscal year we're going into now that public servants are back to their workplaces and we're coming to the potential end of the public health emergency, it'll be interesting to see how that has an impact on sick days going forward, and if people being able to have the opportunity to work remotely has an impact on sick days that are being logged. I know that in other workplaces, public health and safety, in addition to occupational health and safety, is something that a lot more employers are talking about. And so I'm wondering if this is a conversation that's currently occurring within the department.
Particular department finance, because it's a killer Yogo Gente, Kayogo Genteli, Kadin de Situl Naze Kageti, Zeki Waris, Mercury Charles and you. The public service Zeki Garrison. Dalaka. Mogote Kasita, the pandemic on the deco. Kala, Madam Speaker, she in the chart that dream make a Kadesiago on it. You want them daddy go and data kind of department go take higher Tiazon, department to take Hagi Tiazo, the mental health take. It dies the care when it's Raji the case any day. Yeta. Dajite Kirugago Taradin the Zon, Tulemo, Mete Kayati. Ita Kati Department Finance, la Kai, Iraganda, Dizeke, 2000 New Zealand Asia. Coago than a Teleco, Candida. Iraganda as go. Ta Asiso, Kala Mesela, Dizeke, ita. Edesia tule ko Kalati Hakoisi Tishiko Zeketana Kotiazo Dizekea Masini.
Minister, final supplementary, member for Cam Lake.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can you put me back on the list for an additional minister? Thank you.
Thank you. Oral questions, member for Tunade Willade.
Thank you, Madam.
Madam Speaker. Finance Minister Taidu Kenneth the 2022-23 budget grant. Ils sont pas là dans les là, c'est les gens qui voient dit, que ce sont pas ministres qui vont conduire. Kuli que grants c'est government là qui les dit que ils sont pas que gagner des trucs mais que quoi c'est, ils sont pas que. Ta est connu des qui les magasin ta santé, ta une charge que gagner des kala ganita ko sana shuka kandi yasa lali di sombaze ta di ke shuni de magatan da zgo di social programs ke so on da kyo di ke program a ro the la di Department of Health hai ta go te shu infrastructure ke shote Yesu gaita zong me son ba ke tandi a ze ke gani de yin da shi la ka ete ke me ke nine dian da kala si ko da chele ke si la ni de me ga zan da tu le da ji ke a si tu na ze ka de sha tu le de ma si.
Thank you. Minister, supplementary, member for Tunade Willade.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the minister also explain as the grants contribution comes in and it's broken down, you normally would have to do a reporting on those grants or contributions back to Government Canada. When that happens, and we go ahead and spend the monies here in the Northwest Territories,
Canada 전 다고 저 젠디지라 시칼라카고디 이시제케 시툴레스제 카딘디 에 다운디 라 캐나다시 고자나 고테오자지라 송바고니다 세메가 폴시 군리타 간디디 레지슬레이티브 셈블레카엔
Minister, Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, so individual departments, of course, will have the reporting obligations to their counterparts in the federal government. And as we go through the review department by department, starting, I think, later today, we'll have, I would certainly encourage everyone in the House to engage exactly in that dialogue of, what...
The department, I see mekanita, da issue, Queenie de Catule, Moguti, down to some basi, Rattan Tao, the down to Miki, to a cocoa, go to a teach the Ratanta. Kakan dear on the dear public on it. Da not Dene de come right to lay. That you heard the Carusian and the Massi. Coduts and at how.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for that response. I was reviewing the budget for our riding, for the Tunade Willade riding, and this year, our allocation for this year is about $3.4 million. Madam Speaker, I guess I'm concerned about that number when we really need help in our communities.
Somebody line the services here they need situate to get condition coco zaiti. It's a case here. I do Hesila Kashu Cassette the Haike Louis Kayandi the case here. Yoka Gondi Ganda. Da etandi da la gute. The quota the case here. I don't did a lot the Lea di Candi the Tiandian.
Finance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so the budget, of course, isn't drawn up on a per capita basis. It's not per 33 communities divided up by 33. There are occasions, for example, with MACA's budget, where, of course, members may want to ask about the specific dollars that go into a community. But for most departments, a lot of what happens is territory-wide. So, for example,
budget department ke ni de ane. Kheko thagang tele regional execution tele. Ya zong de ke ji ka kana thaga da ko tseisi son ba ge. A zong ko tin de ga ze tiao de di son ba ze ke ji ho kon de shi. Dane te on de shi ga zan da ni de viditi me ze constitution de ko su la ko ze ko ta ya gun di ye za ga zan da de. Ke zong tele 팀은 안디 다들 대신 budget 시라 카티아자 간디오 당디아서 리제키 이시라 뭐 제카디티아 윤다오 키스타 제가 타다 디클레 올레제키 지 간디다 아조고 다지 간디 에게데 킨데 마시니 대안디 제키 아드시니 마시
Supplementary member for Trinidad-Willowday.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I guess what I want to say is that thank you for that response, and I probably want to spend the next few days probably understand the budget that's been put before us here as well, but I want to look forward to work with the Minister of Finance as to how we could look at our budgets for the Trinidad-Willowday riding. And I want to let her know that we have some big issues there. We want to, housing's a big issue, affirmative action's a big issue.
在上头国家地这个业他现在唱了，他就这个么这开始现在是他每个老大呢是，是对了是当地是这个当地是在地这个还是问题嘛是。
Minister of Finance.
Madam Speaker, I don't know that there could be a better set of first questions, certainly not coming to me. That's a statement about consensus government. That's how we do government here. We're going to sit down, and that's where the consultations takes place, is that we sit down, we talk, we learn from each other.
Decision makers, the information they need to take actions. With that in mind, can the minister provide an update on action taken in Klitschko region to address?
Minister. Masiati. Health and Social Services Klitschko region ga. Ja Klitschko ko tateki di dia ga ge dai. Na hia go ze e di dia ha de ge na ge ndian. Di ze ke xin.
Received the budget for the next fiscal year. I haven't yet reviewed it, but I certainly will be doing.
Ka budget se ga ge chugo kala me ga indale. Da
speak to the board of the Klitschko Community Services Agency about how to.
Members in board go to Klitschko board to kesi di dia go to somebody yan de.
Thank you, Minister. Supplementary member for Montfouet.
Thank you for the answer. She is the Minister of Health and Social Services, so that's why I was addressing. Can the minister report on any progress achieved to reverse the poor health trends in the Klitschko region since the report was tabled over 2 years ago?
Okay, guys, data the report naga ge chuji zeki wada sien. Masi di zeki se la ka mekyo da shwa ji zeki report on the members on the zeki was zeka din de ta meke zena kwa tia tulen di masi.
For Montfouet.
Yes, thank you. That is the GNWT health status report that was published in fall 2019, which I tabled 2 days ago. And that's their own
Ijilatagi needs a choose report ha adisi jitata deke ajidi dala dulin the problem says si ajigote action plan tandi segelia si the regions or the ko ajote ke gares it is a case members kayo kaya giti the indigenous ke gares.
If the GNWT was to allocate their budget based on need, we should be seeing improvements in health outcomes over time, but this does not appear to be the case for people in my regions and other groups as well.
Minister, si tu na te kati di budget te kesi o ko te jitaji ko ta te kegini te kesi o di a ron te keson ba te kesi o masini.
Minister of Health and Social Services.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have a pot of money called the Community Initiatives Fund.
The initiative funds kan di a son ba gunli. Ya ko taji ta go di ke ji ta ge le te ke ji son ba si ya. Kan de te tu le haji di te ni te ke ji ka tu le ni ji a ji ga di ti ko ne zu te ke ko ten ti ani te ta ji te ke ju ga zan da. Ko te son ba le la ka ti ga tan te ko ga ji lian le. Ta ti me te plan chu ji la son si me se la kulia ko ti te ke te ko ka me se o. Haji te ke ko ta ke ni le ji te ke. Tu ga e de ko ka kan ti ga ita. Ye one ko ta ji ko te gu te ko te ti ti sin tu le ko san ne a si ka ga ne ta tang ti ko o te ke ji on di ma sin.
Supplementary, member for Montfouet.
Thank you. Does the GNWT have a specific and unique plan to address housing, crime, education, mental health, and addictions in my regions?
Jila Trichon region, Jila si Jiti mo kaya chia simaga plan gun lian. Si ke member you go going de la kimori shonle. Trichon plan to kimori shonle. The territorial department ya thitin. Nakila a ron territorial gadi di Trichon zong dale. Son baisi ya se la kandio di leta khala son bagwani ke.
Fund peer support, addictions and aftercare, suicide prevention, and so on. So there are a number of ways that communities can build up their own resources.
Katule ti ko taisi tu le continue ke a ti son ba te ke sia. O te ji heshu. Ma oze si $600 million budget si a ron health care on the a ron go. Ya health center mo ji ta yo kaya ti te ke ji mo ti ji te ke kan di gala gi te ke on the di machine.
Thank you, Minister. Oral questions. Member for Frame Lake.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. My question is for the Minister of Environment and Natural Resources about the development of regulations for discharges from the Alberta tar sands. I understand that Alberta has begun ecological and human health risk assessment work downstream of potential discharge points. Can the Minister tell us what involved?
Minister, the Alberta tar sands tailings ekela shitule na te kati. Tandi tu te na humidity te kesi o ye ni masi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is my understanding that health, human health and ecological
Titseke Atan Dani de a shit at Thailand. That the Shagon is Joe Chugoy Titseke me Jalmata Alberta di Diana de Kageti, a Kokala Kagetile.
information gap. Want to
The Salmons report Anagit A Nagage Chu DNWTC Tule Department Sitakagelia Koagelia Tule Iseke. Ta kantini te tule magaita. 어제까지를 메카니타. 다지제 계시라 세 에치 이교류자 디제 계시야. 디 federal government 해 달로시제 계시 디 추제 계시 올 산제 계시데 디니데 카 magaita zong khadini de government si tlatsatela se istiasi tliazong asa government federal department de kejuka se istile wazo ele kondira ge tinde ni masin.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. I want to thank the Minister for that. I'm not sure he actually answered my question, so I'll try it a different way here. So one of the most important pieces of work that's going to be done is considering any potential discharges of the impacts of the tar sands tailings, and that usually involves modeling of contaminants downstream.
The agent kesi gala minister si du la ka tu ka zane tali the yutaza tuni li ze kesi di tar sands hone da yendi. Government Alberta did do kai kaganeta kaget. Tagot assessment is the DNWT dele. Tanti moda di kesi gani de edi tiesi la I ona delta zesage. Yisi la na DNWT go tezi naga request di kendezo to le se lene.
The Minister for that. If I was worried before, now I'm even more worried that this modeling doesn't even go into the Northwest Territories. So if it doesn't cover the Northwest Territories, I'd like to know more from the Minister what he's going to do about this. Merci, Madam Speaker.
Northwest Territories is what the Minister la yidi ke dalde ayen. Alberta government ki galagenda kal kanadisi ko te yagin tatla khani te ijuan da za si tiatul Alberta government go galai ta du tizekezi ko te indigenous government ju editi ko go sense tua tizekezi ti la on public si go ga te tua ko on galai me wala ut indezo amidi galagenda je sa ta de ti Sa and I didn't tila khani de katile and daddy quite out. Got any de katile committee issue got a kaditi atule. Tigakala Alberta government go galaita de Honda di Masi.
Member for Frame Lake.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. I want to thank the Minister for that. I'm not asking him to splash it all across the newspapers, but the only information I've got from this minister, from this government, is what I get in the House about this issue. That is totally unacceptable. What I want from this minister is to start sharing what they're doing.
Minister, shidi la dahi na hiti mogo kwas deni de. Di zekesio ko tadni la zeketi House chundun she kada di san di le ko shidi wo kwan de di tar san zekesio waris. Ajidi dala nezu ko seni dagere aji zekesio di masi.
Mr. Vinar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we're working as best we can with the member. We're trying to get that information. He may not want.
Ka ko taut le ni zen di zekesio ka di go ji na the information due na the kaditi ka go the kaditi ni de ENR shu di kan di si zekesi chu zeke yega genda di bilateral the di si zeke da ji zekesi ji Alberta government zeke ji zekesi la di ka Alberta kaditi se yega gena ta ko zeni de ji yogi on zekesi kan di go ze kageti ENR kakala kageti Ita DNWT water te kezi kauti yugo again. Hakala is te kezi galaita. Tizeke one. Masi.
Thank you. Final supplementary, member for Frame Lake.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. I want to thank the Minister for that. You know, I keep asking the questions of this minister now 2 days in a row because I'm not getting any other information. So will this
Kosanai.
what's going on behind closed doors?
Etago dite keji di kota tong chi dashi jiwa de sikaji zwa de masin. Ka. Kondi kate member ka kaitesi. Na hide kesi ka soni ko na yaiti. Kandigo di diesi yundani zo chundigo na hi kala yime go diesi dana de di. Duijigo za si sa de liago onende.
Thank you. Members, time is up for oral questions. Oral questions, oral questions. Written questions. Written questions. Returns to written questions. Returns to written questions. Replies to Commissioner's address. Replies to Commissioner's address. Petitions. Petitions. Reports of committees on the review of bills. Reports of committees on the review of bills. Reports of standing and special committees. Reports of standing and special committees. Tabling of documents. Honorable Premier.
Honorable Premier, table of documents. Madam Speaker, the annual status report is 2019-2023. Amasi. EC Minister, table document. Madam Speaker, is you Kiate, Yelnav Catholic School, Capital Plan, 2021-2022, Yelnav Education District Number 1, 2021-2022 Capital Plan amended. Is you Masin. Consideration, Committee of a Whole, Bills numbers 23, Bill 23, Bill 29, Bill 338, Table Document 561-19-2, Main Estimate.
I now call
Committee of Whole to order. Committee lad, and what is the wish? Member Frame Lake. Masi committee to Tlawa Nazariji, Kotani, they cannot do anything, Masin.
I now call the committee back to order.
To committee. Na chairnya na take it. Machine. Katia Jite KG Gaita the 561-19 Target 2 Main Estimate 2022-2023. Minister Environment Natural Resource C Sadu Shini there. Ka Gusendi, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair. Do 2023-2023 take main estimate Department of Environment and Natural Resources take a road take Gazanda 849,000 tiacha 21-22 take the Metaisi Department of Environment Natural Resources Ikala Kagetiati take Somba Magasa Lazi take. Dane take you the Hizekazia. Ditekela the Oze Bathurst Blue Nose East Caribou Sitekezi 1.35 million. Diajago the 1.35 million. 850,000 barren ground caribou and it's 80,000 zeke. Go to 260,000 hunters and trappers. Go to Guchazi Zekega. Go to 251,000 is air contract is insurance. Sunset 968,000 funding. Meganitnida. New to talk to Yaktak Highway Zeke. But the environmental Zeke Zigazanda, Magazanata. Yet I said that on the Gulia with the case you can't down. Got that you Megazan that is home, but the Kega Hesi 495,000. It's a Kegakala Meza Yatagan, the Azgo, the assembly, the case. Candia the 2019-2023 the climate change the action plan in the Niginila. It's a case. Arroya Tazagulia got it a case. Candici Megasi, Senia the Chizeke Gashwane. Kotachu Ajiri the case, Lata case, Candico Taza case, Candici got a territorial protected areas at Arro the forestry industry got any day, Ajiteke Natazre Tizeke Jaro programs on. That is a canny day, as you said, tea, dead the cake, Candid the Keta Arro, she got on that. The GNWT the KC, the Arro, Dashi Kandi, the regional target, the KC Kandiago Zagan, the K to the KC order. It ya to Corisianas and Massili. Mr. Chair. Mr. Minister, the Minister, Natural Resources, you witnessed it alien. And Sergeant Arms, she do lady witnesses, he joined. You go need Minister, Miyagi Deichi was a cutting here. Mr. Chair, much. Deputy Minister Ryan Kelly. Jessica. Much. Committee she teacher Keju cousin D data committee. Teacher Keju can teacher K Tage the Tegas large Agana Zoom. Committee teacher Keji met the summary. Magata is a Keji. Do Kuzani is a Keji. Got a job 872 is a Keji 875. Members that there are questions. Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Chair. Corporate management is a grind. Is a case on. Cost some ke galata is a case here. That is a case la situle na hete kati. The Department of KC, Corporate Management of KC, situé na Zekati and the machine. And the machine. The government of KC Council, the CZK, Katanta, is the government, Kakuagani Lali, is the KC. So, Galata, Ita, the Somba KC, indigenous government, Kogati Liazago, Tizake Galata, the KC. Minister, Siko Sanan, resource method la. Do why budget ke garis in the masi. Masi, Mr. Chair, Deputy Minister, is Yego cutting didi. Masi. Ajo te kesi gaita. Dizeki. Kote. Aron. Mesela anaju teni te tison bajeke gani. Masi. Ejiteke monai se di son bajeke sigo. Di teke sigo. Da di teke sila legislative scene. Irakan tashi la ki sagoti le tu assembly. Ta minister aji wola di Northwest Mining Zekesio ki kagwati le jizekio dandia mwana zekaya ni tile endi masi. Jizeke gai tashi la aji la narasela. Assembly heko te aji galai tazeki. Jesu ka the assembly si ka metse khonlan dia sitla inesen. Andini te kala te 11 meke gusen motu shana dende se deputy minister katule yo kaya tien. Ka tu meke gosiago le kago ton
Complete the work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. O'Reilly.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that. I'll be watching it very closely, and I am concerned about the level of resourcing. But I want to move on to the Community Harvester Assistance Program. This program has been under review for at least 2 years. It was even raised in the last Assembly about how effective this was in building some food security and enabling people, particularly in smaller communities, to get out and get country foods. So it's been
the harvesters program that kiji mikuru jana sa iji atane te sate megasela di te kiji ga the program to Kigarasindi.
Riley, Minister.
Timeline, I'll turn to the Deputy Minister for giving the detailed timeline, realizing the time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Minister doing the timelines here. Ka Mawanasi the discussion. The discussion la ka mega report gaita the government discussion. That is the case la February 10, 2022. You go come get a program. That get in Beni de Megonaze Kanitia Jiteke program. That is the Kenny de go sign a program to come method land. Is the key. Is it clear on the le? That go sign a series method land. The program the case here. Mr. Chair. Title Community Hiring is assistant programs at in law. Mercury Shana said, Dijakia. Masi. Deputy Minister in the end. Masi, Mr. Chair. Is the case la the Magazanda. The training program the Kezi Monaze Kaya Dindi. It's a Kegani day. Cardi program it's a day as ago. Mega son Bashi, Metanis in the Lao, Meteze, Garisomba Metania the Chuyen. Masi, Mr. Chair. That is the Kezi Laka. Magain da is the Kewa. Take you what easy take care. That is a cassie corny see. As in line day, and I need to let Magan dine as any community hiring assistant program. Nine. The disaster to Dene to go to good shots get some by you go Mount Dine as 2021 is 400,000. Is la teacher care the Randa is province case. That is the case car 275,000 make a lot in la can't you go gala indeed guys it's a case got that teacher care don't yet challenge. 275,000. Akala ji onze ji meta sombani tini line se. Masi. Mr. Chair, Masi. Di keji la. Di klet kuwaji chuda khada dag se lade.
We come up with our numbers. Right now, it's based on that, but for further detail, I'll turn to the Deputy Minister to explain if we have over expenditure and what happens moving forward on that. Thank you.
Deputy Minister in the end.
We requested some additional funding to review this program. It's quite...
Imagoita, se keji honda megason by di ka. Ejia di kon, se honda down. I saw the modati contact. I used to get Ashilati. I see Magaita 185,000. McKinney on the Kigaita. That is a Kenny day Magaita, but the program the Kiji Siditli. It's a $100 condition. That candidate with the conversation issue method lion.
Yeah, thanks for that information. So this review, one of the questions I had was whether the criteria are going to change, because I understand there's only some things that can get claimed. There's a maximum amount, and that not everybody was necessarily happy.
Julia in Lani did the budget case in Dene Zhatıé Sedadasin. Machine. Deputy Minister at Indian. Two cars you may go down. Is it a case here? The car leader says that you lazy say that the harvesters the case yagaita. That is 25% seen at that. That is a canny day, then a song on DC. A CC Kaizeni did the case is a Honda tuned. And you are wrong, that quite and you the case at the machine. Machine. Sitleko kala sari shini de. Miss Malkaby. It's a kevanda. The is a case la. Is the meat a case ga do guy. The meat hago de ani de la down the is a case. Simaka somebody like you at the task list in. The chose case la car. The tat is eating. I do a duck on the Ashimudishon. And this a case right that can do car. Do he see that the budget right tiny day come at that one on the city. And you go do I who go Chinese guy on that Chinese day, Kaka Shimugo 1,000. Can you do is a case like a budget Jesus lion? That is a good easy. Masi is in that the grants and contributions a case out there is a canny day. The dog on this a case, that is the key will cut the Cindy. Masi. That is the key what in this Lagama. But the other do casing. This a Kazika was Sarcini. It's a case was Sarcini. Miss Marcellos. Mr. Chair. Is it a case? Meganda.
We were not listened to, and there was some sections in the act that we still have a problem with in my community, especially the First Nation, the two First Nations, and so I'm wondering when those public engagements are going to start, and hopefully they're face to face and not virtual. I think it's extremely. I don't want it to happen and then there is no engagement, because not.
I see the Tather Lalindi, you water Cindy. Do the Himagota need the Tamachala to keep First Nation Guldian. It's a Kerashim and Ninety. That is a Kasitula, you was a kayak the end machine.
Minister?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank the member for that. I can guarantee you we are going to do public consultation. We also have the process with IGCs that we are working with through that process. But for the detail on exactly how we're going to do it, I will with.
Etandi asitlega sila tikakala semodi joloko deputy minister ke kaya tia tulayen.
A technical working group to
Duisilaka go laita titsekeo. Ta kan dini de etandi bill laji dani je chuani de molat. Ta sa na bill nagagani dani de ka government go che gu tene titsekea. Tene public go che kadi tia tule. Yaji tsekeo de isi go. Mikedi chwa go. Iteke. Ta yi ga zan da go oni. 다 이제 계신 다 뭐가라 진단이 대dwin 벤데네즈와 가디오에 따라 사오전 유니 이신 메타오데 아나히 나가니 되니 Salt River Co Wildlife Act 아자겠지. The government 시카 대고겠지. 가디고 키 에탄디 카넬레나 헤지린디레. 이 Salt River 제 계시. 이타 이지 와르시. 단도라고 해제지야 단도고 세니 저니 다즈레 아예니. 마시 나히카티 마가이타. The budget is the federal government to go to good day. It has other First Nation Chicago to good day. Tizeke, Tantia City Tizeke, that the deputy minister you want to carry out the end. Masi, the Tandi Modi Shoalati, Tago, that's the see how this is missing IT as a go. The federal land get way as is a feet lago only, is it in one down Carcondigo. Is you only get in the Catulu Mendadi can eat out to the city client. The harvester support program that you are Gusenes. See, Metas. Somebody has a shoot out down the go. It's a program. See, our own First Nation Yakity Diana. It's a key. I is a case of Mercurianes and the Massin.
It's important that we look at that, and increases should be done throughout the Northwest Territories on the Harvester Support Program. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
See Ms. Martselos, Minister.
Thank you. As the Deputy Minister,
Deputy Minister Kadindi Kakala Mikegalaita the report occasion. Katsakala get Ishila February 10th. We can out at the Minister, Deputy Minister, got on a program to Yagunlian. Kakala take Kantico. Not the indigenous government here. Kojamia Sikani Tezeki, Kotateke. Is Yaron Megauta Nite Omeke Galaita, Dugoza. A member Lakatiadi, Ka Asisi, Yudanini Chiako to Bain de Catule, Megazanda, the wasn't make a good Laka and Dendi, Massini. Kakala, Damike Galaita, Tizekation. The other is what the Lezekea. The Asi to Zekani de Kamesela as a go with Zekani de the government here. Kakala Mikegalaita, it in bed honey de Catule, Catule Azizek, and Hedago is a Kegats and Tatule in the Masi. The KG Harvester Support Program, the are charged that is a good sort easy good at that is the KG can declare
an increase in groceries and gas. It's making it difficult for them to.
Around Sitia John, do. That's a Zezek coin. Kazek 90 had sold out the Tizek, you can't deny. Da do me Tizek, Metadini lagin la.
To go out because of the gas. The gas price has increased in the small communities. So there is a lot of talks about that, harvesting country food. So what I would like to, I just want to ask about that because this program, Harvester Support Program, is really, it really helps a lot of, I know it
support program ta yo kun de je ke ja khau ti ko chan dian the all the dia tin ko so ti gon ju ti khle dia tian le ko ti ta kon dia ta ta du ke ne e down di la son ba ko ta se di region je ke ga yan Deputy Minister Ajusini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a formula, which is one of the things that's being reviewed, but we provide funding to the Indigenous government or the RRB, and they provide funding to the community members.
Funding at you go to the Tiago touches on Baniki go target. He's a kick on down. As you go Sanesi, that more going in the Kizzy, she's in a Hirakam right up.
We've allotted, there was $209,000 allotted in 2020 to that, and $166,000 to 17 groups this January. So that's a new program that is along the lines of CHAP and support.
Usually program koni ho ni hi de tijeke mo kone tijeke sio. Ta ko se ti son pa se ke si la ka ti sha si lo me se la de clear so sio de le. Ta ka ka la me ke ga lai ta son a de son pa se ke ga ni de ya tu na ki ma ga ita. Ko ta se ke ga si.
Government level to distribute the funds within their area. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let's see, Ms. Guiellen Armstrong.
Thank you. So you said there's a formula in place. So the money that's there, it's 1.something million, 1.3 million here. So is it allocated based on needs or per capita?
Ajita ko magugati mizini se tao capita da tao. Tane te tene si he. Taji te keni de Deputy Minister ga uchuni. Masi Mr. Chair. Tane te tene si nage ze kage ti si jita kha da ti you tiago te te ke si wonde masi.
Ms. Guiellen Armstrong.
Okay. Yes, because right now, usually at this time, people from my region, they harvest caribou. And in the past, they used to go to our regions, cultural regions, but now they have to go long distance. And it's just, a lot of them are saying that it's hard, it's difficult if you don't have the means, if you don't have a vehicle, if you don't have any of the stuff that it's really hard for them to access country food, especially caribou, which is the main diet for the people in the regions. So that's why, so that's why I was asking about that, because Harvester Support Program really helps family, especially if you have to.
The Harvester Support Program is usually tasi nahi ke te ke a ron si me ke di de a le yan.
It's hard, it's difficult for them. And now with the mobile zone, that it's, the mobile zone is huge. It's difficult for people to go hunting. And some people, they go there.
Tu nana tane si juna ke ze kage tio tu ko de ji. Ti te ke ji. Ji kan dio ki ti nie ke ti. Ta ke ti o ze ni za ke ti. Ji wa de si. Ta ji te ke si la so ti ji te ke. Ka ni te e kon te me ti kage ti ni de ni za za ke ti. Tu. tatse khandi je kesin hajanda du kama tite ke luni a relation shu khandi je ke hia e ber lanza ge da ko de ji agusha ita ji je kesin a si kala khandi si je kulia je le tha OTD ta me khajani je je kulia je le tha当地啊的一个开销，第二个看到的，他的我人还跟这个你的一话的是的，现在个公我一个开销啊，的其他地看着你的样你的。
Every year, there's people from other regions that go hunting as well, like from across the lake. And we see them go there, and then even from Decho, people go there too. So, and last year, a few times, there were some people from Satu region as well. So that's why, is there any plan in place that, you know, like, just so that people can harvest caribou? Thank you.
Okay, Mussey, Ms. Whale and Armstrong, if we can be mindful of the time and the other speakers, keep our preamble short and to the point if we can. Minister?
Thank you. There is no looking at shrinking the mobile zone.
The mobile zone is kesi laki magai taundare. Ya tenesi amimi jiwan di tiago tlaza the lan. Na hilaki di somba neatly kako di jiteke report the Honda ka indigenous government chuko galai ta thite. A rock out de shuisako galai ta. Kote na hi kandini de ka a si na the indigenous government siko a thite ni de a jidi ni de the keju na the ka geti ni de ka gazanta. 2 bathrooms the gazanta ni 6,200 so. 开始了，一大一些那些人，那还真的是搞不过这个对你的，看过个来打这个，提卡的，看他这个那这个可是你写的，看他这个是看的是，还真打这个问题，的我教会的这个是个来打是这个，但Deputy Minister 和啥的心里人的对模拟个那喊的。
The mobile zone is work that we do with Klito government and with the Wikeji Renewable Resources Board, so that's joint work, and it's to protect the remaining Bathurst.
Kanaki mo go itiane me tizekea, me kiti zekea. Ya tata kondigo o zekesio. Ta ka kandisha me ga son banite me zeke. Ta zeke ni de ka me ni zon de me tizekea. Ko ti jia gote. Muden dio dele. Mobile zone ga kala ne zon te sia ti Miti santi honda tande. Miti tane te ta khada ni te kha mora te kha tonta ne wana gini de. Ti chon government chuka ko ga lai ta ti che kesi. Ti ta ko tai ti che kesi. Machine.
Armstrong.
Yeah, well, that's good if they're, I think I'm hearing it from people, you know, I'm not hearing from the leaders. So it's good that maybe but it's just that I'm hearing from other people as well. So that's why I am addressing their concerns, because they rely heavily. And some of them said, I mean, if it wasn't for the traditional food, you know, like it would be more difficult for them with the increase in groceries and gas, and it's.
Ti si cha ti ka se ni te ji ze ke u ti tane ye ta ke ti ji ra wa na ze ka ya ti yen.
You know, to be self-reliant. So that's why I am addressing the caribou, the mobile zone, and that, you know, it would be nice to see this harvester support program working with the indigenous government. You know, working with the indigenous government based, you know, like allocate the funds based on what they say, and, you know, like based on needs or per capita would be great. Thank you.
Masi, Ms. Whale and Armstrong. I think I gave you an extra one, but Minister, if you care to respond, Masi.
Okay, I agree we need to work on this. That's why we went out.
Ka etiani sega lai ta zo. Ejita indigenous government si ko che khatesi. The program che ke ta di ne zwa si tle che ke sia. Deputy Minister ko ka ko ga landa. Ti son pa che ke sia. Ta ti che ke si kan di si la ka la February 10 che ke si ko che mo ni ti se ti che ke. Governors territories on the lay. Naki Tanayati Nakiana Zekadandi. Kandia Candida Cunidian. Taka Candesi. Ka in the Sisi, in the neatly see Ka Mazoda Asi Lizodi and the Mas. Mr. Simpson.
We have artisans who are looking for hides with which to make items and for sale to tourists and that. And we talk about the harvester support programs. So
the harvester support programs are going. Is climata na ni la sila. Etandila la meta sitia je It's a case la he can't be near the chew to say he's a keda minister. Teacher Casey gala. She do lay me the dendi they see near the chew to any day. Cutile target in the end.
I see Mr. Simpson, Minister.
I don't know what hunters the member's talking about, but I know the hunters that I've talked to, I've heard from, they bring the hide in. They're bringing them into their communities. They do, a lot of times the families use it, and so it's very much the hides are brought in, whether it's the caribou or the moose, they bring it in. And I know in my riding we have
This is he need to go 9 the Katagas at Sagalis. Count down there. Da got any day car. It's a Honda she calculate. I see the Gana get indeed.
Incentive to sell it to others. I will ask the Deputy Minister if we do have certain things in this program area. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Minister, you can kayak to you.
WT Art Strategy includes an action item to increase access and availability of Northwest Territories Fur and Hide for NWT artists, and it's an ITI ENR co-shared.
ITI ENR the kid Jakahi. Mitsuanda the Somba to the Chizekagashi, this is Yani Dendi. Condiane.
Teaching people to harvest and prepare the hides, and our On the Land Funders Collaborative has provided funding to hide camps.
Kajiteka Shukason Bagogagili, Kon Dege, this is he got Tani de Kakandi, a Somba Sala, Kotashi Gogalaita, Dizekega. Taji, Jizeki Gatan Tani de Kotageni, then Dezeki, Mikan Dizera, Aunt, any the camera go Zaiti.
Program that buys and provides funding for hides, moose, beaver, seal, fox, muskrat.
The ITI la Kakandia Sombago got the land, it is a Kita, you Kizeki department now going to end the massive.
Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess, I have a lot of people come to my office, a lot of artisans selling goods. And a lot of those goods are made with commercial tan hides. And I ask them all the time, why don't you use traditional tan hides?
Mola the Casey. Kadi, as they say, Ila, down you go to the Godesia, Itiagatila, Tati, do Candida City, like he had a city landers, Segeti, Ishitawades.
What I'd like to see, I guess, is that as part of this, is that we provide, that we can provide an incentive for harvesters to bring the hides out, if they're not, and make them available to artisans to tan. And whether we just, my preference would be just give it to them. Like you pay somebody $250, $500, I don't know what it would be, to bring it out of the bush. And then turn it over to the artisan and they can tan it. And
시듈레테네 간지 제제키다 디지털즈 권약이래 이가라겐다니 시듈레고 짜이티 아지게니 제제케시 간디네네즈가 간디아카네센디.
So, and if access to the hide is an issue, then we should address it. And if we have to provide some incentive.
Ze agritle zekegani deka magajitle de zidikenizetle tiontere kedi kandia 고가지니 취인데 원내주와 디파트먼트 특유의 간디 갈라겐다 이가겐다 디마시.
Yeah, we can potentially look at this, but for clarity, I think the deputy minister would be able to say.
카티안디 멘다디 과이타 아툴레.
Lassie, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that we'd be interested in having some conversations with folks that are interested in this through our On the Land program. To my understanding, there's the bringing it out of the bush, but the work begins when you're trying to actually tan the hide, and there are fewer and
fewer. 카메가 주뉴지 아즈고 아디네 툴레 메가 세뉴지 안 아디오마고 제구티 아즈고 온디
that are interested in that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Lassie, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm pleased to hear that you're willing to work with them, because what I will do is I will send the artisans over there, because what I proposed to them was that if they get the hides, that ITI then pay them to actually tan the hide, because I know how much work goes into tan a hide. Like it's not just a week's worth of work; it's longer. Move on to personnel and active positions. With the vaccine policy, I'd like to ask how many staff in I guess in corporate management, I suppose at this point, were impacted by the policy. Thank you.
I'll see Mr. Simpson. Minister.
Detail. I'm going to turn to the Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm aware of 5 people who chose not to get vaccinated in the department. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I'll see Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Their positions, was it mandatory for them to have the vaccine?
I know where the member is going with this, but so if there's federal requirements, i.e. getting on planes, that they need to make sure they're vaccinated, and that's a federal government. If they need to be in
the company that get any day condition, it is a go to large one. County linde, coolie the vaccine go to linde, car county at the trade years ago. Is it a hard athlete in the machine?
I'll see Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess it's safe to say that you know, if somebody's required to fly and a requirement, the federal requirement is you have to be vaccinated, then it is mandatory to have the vaccination for that position if you want to keep it. I just want to go on here. Is how many Indigenous employees would have been impacted?
Indigenous
Simpson, Minister.
That detail, I'll turn to the Deputy Minister. I don't know if we have that deep.
Deputy Minister Dundian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this point, and I should highlight here that I'm talking about the staff that are on strength right now, as well as with the 5. I think there's one Indigenous person, but I would have to go back and check the
record. We're
looking into that. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask the Minister, will there be an opportunity for those that were impacted to be either reinstated in their positions or at least have the opportunity to, I guess, reapply and be rehired when that policy falls off the table? Thank you.
Thank you for that detail. You're going to have to ask the Finance Minister what the policy is, what the HR policy is. I'm not going to get into that.
Finance policy and you got like that, the public government occasion. I say, Dowdy, I say, he's a case in it. The finance minister started a long time to make a kayak machine.
Are there any other questions for this section? Hang on. Mr. Jericon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, or Mr. Chairman. Okay. Thank you. This section, I just want to make sure, are we allowed, I know we got the time limit to go through this. Is it, or do we go through page by page and then we go through 10 minutes of it, or can I get some clarification on that? Thank you.
Corporate management environmental protection corporate management Timaganda Zekini de Tizekesi Wanda page 69 is Zekesi or Goten did. Tati Zekesi gotten down there wildlife Seki was you gotten de Tizeki. I did Zekesi gotten da the Kamaganda. The department of KC and I need a magazine. The chief of KC will call Gotten de Gazago. He died the KC, she the KC la she, Sako Mega Department of KC Gagana Town. And this is a KC report goodly, is a K1.
Yeah, maybe if I can just clarify, Mr. Jericon, we got wildlife and fish on page.
Wildlife and fish 94 zake on. Is it a queenie day? Katile mo kaya neki. Do the corporate management right? 72, 73, 74, 75 on there too. Hindi gaya la di da e chenshi o de de yi de ke shi ga zhen da yi de ke Tana Hajini Tezwa Kanita, Tizekela down Duke. Ida Tizekela Chitule Nazekati, Tizekesi, Titanakandi, Asikagani, Tezekesi Ganide, Metzekeriaji down Diodeti, Tizekirayan in the machine. Minister.
We do have enforcement. We have individuals that reach out to our departments.
Deputy Minister di tissue, Katule na Zekati. Masi. Nahi Tizekesi la ka officers kandi in Tadia Galaganda. Go to harvest to Chicago Galaita. Tizekesi la ka harvesters digit government Kesi Koditi, Tizekesi. Ita Kandia Katiti, Tizekesi. Tia Ronzeke. Meta Mote Gute, Meke Gute, Gote Katiti. Aji Tizekesi at December the Keshishu. Ta Mewa Gandiko, Seni Taunita Tizekesi. Dako Taute Gute, Nikam Oza Kadidian. The harvesters take Ganide. Ta Asito. Mikegala down the Tizekation. Tidute Asikazini Tizeke Gandendi. Masi.
That you're also working with the local harvesters as well, I'm assuming, and if you are, and you're also working closely with the Indigenous governments as well, and to put an end to some of these activities. I guess, Mr. Chairman, I'm thinking here is that we got, this section is a really interesting section, but I just want to say that, as a former chief, when they used to go to assemblies and the minister comes in and they do their speech and we try to ask questions and the next thing you know, time's up and they leave, but then we don't get results. So I just want to say that, it's actually an honor and privilege to sit here and question the minister and get staff and we get hear it firsthand.
Do signer that you can go to the I do not any data you can the machine.
Would allow the minister to make a comment, Masi.
Yeah, thank you.
Minister Masi, do Tizekesi la come minister in the do Okirago Tesi. Ka indigenous government you go take good day, go take out tissue. Ka go take good day, Kasiti. Aji Tizekesi was song. Nandita Hekiti Tizekesi. Ajina metada IC Tekesi, Mogote Kaditi Tien Arjeki. That the Nasi Kandiko Lao Tanite. Ita Ka, the Oza, Mego Sati Dini Tegoti, Deputy Minister doing the and the Masi.
The Minister, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I forgot to mention our hunter education.
Tekesi Latika, Kaji Tekesi Magai Tazagon. The EC to go Galaita, how good the Zeke indigenous government. The car on DC, Katantala Katila Kalakagoti and the machine.
No further questions. Please turn to page 73.
Page 73, Randa. As you take KC. The environment corporate managers expenditures that case 2022-23 $14,184,000. Kamil Kanalezo Masi environmental waste management that case page 76. Yesila page 78 information item zeke. Tizeke sila members. Esi gani de 78 zeke yan. Hitleko sa de sini de tizeke. Mr. O'Reilly. Mr. Chair. Teacher Casey Ganda ni te teacher program te Casey Gatanda. Say teacher Casey County Gatanda ni te Mr. Rights Act on Danis. The medadic is in a Tatseki. Taji te Casey Gatanda ni Indi Sadala Tarmagan mine Hindley Jitaki Gatinda. A cushy you go high to the Tlande, the giant mindaki. Tajitaki ministry, see and daddy coin dark up, make a gala dandy in lady ministry. Da is a Kizilla, Dantia Zilla, cause a Sikala Dule make a gala tattoo artist in the Masi.
I'll just go to the Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Deputy Minister in the end. The Kakalakakoti, the federal government, ita the Ajidi the Kazin, and that is not Tagada, the two make a galat, so make a gatan that the Kazima. Do
on a land use permit at this.
Any the land use plan is it out go galata. It's a Katuka Conti, a queenie there, Rota Moda, the Atlucani Dendi. Masi.
Mr. O'Reilly.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So is there money in this budget to do work at Ptarmigan? And can we get reimbursed? And what is that amount? And can we get reimbursed for that money by the feds? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
It's a chemical I time the sea federal get on our heads again. Yes, it's a case in Deputy Minister, I see. It's a Kiakamo, La Tata, go to city, Gala make a good down to the Masi.
To do the work I described. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Masi. Mr. O'Reilly.
Yeah, okay, thanks for that. Okay, for the tailings cover, the dust suppressant, stuff starts to dry out in May. Do we actually have the suppressant in stock, so to speak, and is it ready to be sprayed on or whatever in May? Because that's when the stuff starts to blow around. So, and that's something we've seen from Giant Mine for years and the same out there. So do we have the stuff ready to go? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
The Giant Mine, the Cassicadia, the Lysia, Kata Tatlet, the Ako Dinto Kazalia, Christia, the Siendia Andy. Daka, Conita Masi, is it indeed? Daka, is it a Casey Laka? Guinia Sunday in the Tennessee. You are not getting the Zeki. Is it a Kegatan Tani de See Lego Mega Diclegunli policies at DC Dizeke. To it a Tarago Teziga in Tala. Taj the case of Honla, Wanda Kit, Casey Candia sees Izarandan. Cosanella sia si Chico Mezella, Dizekeo. Mezehola Tule, Cozanti, determining minds of Kegarisin.
Masi, Mr. O'Reilly. Minister.
For that detail, I'll turn to the Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Deputy Minister, Indian. Is a case, Watson Tiny Day, Aji Diclena had says here. Megait out the departments you were to good. Dizekia, JNWT shugo tse khati tia zon danet e on te ze kesin da zon de kete liang le di department ze kesin ya masindi.
Merci. Mr. O'Reilly.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think I may have seen the document, but can the minister commit to share it with standing committee and report regularly on progress on that initiative? Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Merci, Mr. O'Reilly. Minister.
Yeah, we'll.
Minister tila khatu he ene deshi. Iji tati report ze kesi committee ze kesio. Kakala samo committee si ko tse gu te aji ze ke progress on deshi. Ko tse aji li la yundani ki lia liesa thane de quarterly tau, figai tau, tantia yen. Ija ko tanai deshi yazo taki tisi ho. Committee ze ke ho. Masin.
Merci. Mr. O'Reilly.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm a very patient man. I've been waiting 6 years, so any kind of progress reporting would be really helpful. But I'll leave it at that. That's all my questions in this activity. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Merci, Mr. O'Reilly. Ms. Knockleby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask a bit of a question for more detail on the dust suppressant that the Deputy Minister mentioned. I'm just curious to know, is this for the
Deputy Minister, you going to dissertation. It's a killer doubt in Meramuda, the Masi.
Detail, I'm going to the Deputy Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is the tailings that are near the roadway, and I'm sorry, but even I do not have that level of technical.
Is a killer, say, Kala is only two. Not the Magu, and they get a more Metanaku than I end.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci. Ms. Knockleby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm a bit of a nerd from my time at Giant Mine, which is why I'm curious to know what's being explored for Ptarmigan, and do urge the department and the minister to chat with the Giant Mine folks about their issues in spreading dust suppressant throughout the windy conditions of the Northwest Territories. And I see a nod, so I'll just take that as a comment. I guess my question is around, again, with Ptarmigan, and I appreciate my colleague raising it. With the land use permit work being
the land use permit is Yigatunda. Is two Kakalamake Kaya the devolution article. She do let it secure and make Kaya and it. Kaya tia do lily. Tane de Katie Maturali than the Casey. That is a Casey la he can't be as you may write that. Because any tell a down dear is the can't get it land the end.
Minister.
Thank you. We'll get the dust suppressant information to her. In regards
to the condition, Netza Ninichia to the co, had the senator, the deputy ministry did the Yakaya Tivaran de Masi. Jilakatu Kala, Magola Tada Nayaiti. The treaty he, the land use permit zeke. Jilaha, Koseni Tarnit or Nide, Katule Megoteta. Jitula Tula Tadas Lesiam or Yazin the Antendi. Twimo Saris in the Massin.
Despite some no trespassing signs there. So I'm just curious to know if we're verging onto somewhat of an emergent situation at Ptarmigan. I know that there are issues with a head frame and probably likely stability and such of some of the buildings. I'm not sure if there is an open raise or...
It's a camera, the Legunili. Because she can't sound it. Says it, Liali, Clessini, Tazani, or Tahani, they you could the Kiwalis in the machine.
Merci, Ms. Knockleby. Minister.
The giant minds a Kiwadi. That do Deputy Ministers you Kaya tea machine. Katu Dazola Taza Desiti Mogu de Deco Kala GNWTSC Editia Kaketin Le Tule Econ Megatan Tago Eji Azutile Kokiti Mechanete Ajeta Condigo or the Kezi because the journalism Tule Eco Metaco Taza Tiendi. Dice Kezi Gilati Ami Taza Sela Tesila Katu Yuti Galaganda. Ita Ka Mego Hutli Gotinde Mego Hutli Naya let the project Kezi on you.
Ms. Knockleby?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to say that I was on the site long before all the signs went up in the fencing. Just looked really neat, so we wandered off the highway. And I guess my final question on that then is, are we on the hook then as the GNWT for that in the meantime? Is there, and I know again, I'm probably just reiterating Mr. O'Reilly, but I maybe was not always listening to the answer. Are we able to recoup that at some point? Thank you. I'll just ask again.
Deputy Minister Dundian. Jaga la Tada Megadaya Tiamidi Metata Lazi, condition out the Ideki, that is the Kian.
Really comment on at that time because the work is ongoing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hey, Mussey?
I just want to say I appreciate the Minister and Deputy Minister's patience as you can understand that from this side we definitely want you to be asking for that money to be paid for by the federal government regardless, if we do end up doing the remediation work ourselves. Some of it seems like it's their stalling that has led the mine to get to that state for so long, so I feel like we should hold them accountable. And again, just a comment, so thank you.
Mussey? No other questions from committee? Oops. Yeah, we got a couple. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'm in the right spot here, hopefully. Environmental stewardship and climate change? No. Oh, sorry, I think it's the next one.
We're on environmental protection.
And waste management. Goes up to page 78. You're good? Okay, we'll move on to Mr. Jericon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had a question for the Minister. Since devolution, it's my understanding that the contaminated sites, did the GNWT take responsibility of the contaminated sites, or is it, my understanding it's still the responsibility of Government Canada?
All right, Mussey. Yeah, maybe just to remind committee if we can indicate that you're done with your question by.
Committee he Kuli Gotan Dontele. It's a Casey Rotten Tashila Kala devolution charge and Desi Chuntele. Kala Deputy Minister City, Hegan Dining Tetule, Hagaita is a Casey. Mr. Chair, it's a case cutting the federal government case, Kakala, Yagala Genda, Kakala di Tiae, Katlasala. That is a case, County Nagani trained the Catule Mega Sesitli, Candy Guli Zekion Telende. Katule Mogona the Deade. Candigo da Assisi like Lasi, Duemego Gosiago only. Hita Mogote Guin de Laka and Dizo. Massy, Mr. Chair. 이지가면 다들 getting 타선 뒤도 되고 tin데기 이따 ministry 이제 기억하지 시네선.
For that detail, I'll turn to the assistant or the deputy minister. Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were
1,319 sites government go.
will be transferred to the GNWT once the Government of Canada
Government Canada getting data content 9 sites GNWT the 20 sites Government Canada responsibility on it. Because I'm always
Mr. Jericon.
Thank you for that. Now that you told me those numbers on that, has your department, or to the minister, has your department gone out to figure out the actual cost to remediate these mine sites in a broad number? So we don't know. I don't see any numbers here, but I'm asking that question to you. Thank you.
Masi, Mr. Jericon, since you're kind of new, direct all your questions to the chair. And then when you're done your question, if you can just indicate that.
Chairman, you want to go to Diago Ole. Yan the collision, the good go on a colonel Serrano the collision. Daji the Keo Kadushin Seko, the member sheet the Kesio, the site the Cindy. That the Gigani, the deputy minister, the Tiakai George the Kiamasin. Mr. Chair, the Casey Laka, DC mine site IT Leco, the Gotin Degani de la Car Department, the Diago the Caditia, the Diago Tazago, the Tizekea. Taji the Casini, the other Kani de Kota the Casey, the Jugo, Lago Azago. Daji the Keta Hani de la Car, Agidio Diago, the Zizu Garden de Mogo than the Massin.
Masi, Mr. Jericon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that clarification earlier, because I was the chairman for the Impact Review Board, and I've been through that as well. So, thank you. Another question to Mr. Chairman is that now that I guess I want to know how's the department working with the remediation portion of it once they identify this and to figure out the costs and that. How's that work going to be going let out? Is it going to be done through contracts, or can that be?
Down did la go again that the contract that down there again the condition because Masi,
Mr. Jericon, Minister.
So, depending on the projects, we were working with.
Gala that the whole time is also Moratia. Got you. As you take a project of good days, because the down there is a case. Yamo good. Car owner organization to go to good the government. How did I go to the case or good there in the car? Mendadigo are good. Candy the Ketanesi, the indigenous go to good. You can't Shaka
Deputy Minister to add to this. Thank you.
Masi, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we use GNWT procurement policies for the
GNWT the Jago Tazadela, and the Athlete Casey. Cotseni de Sikala, me Kalameke, I got the executive. The letter Casomeke Galaita, the Casey. That's the department, she's the Kesamba Hazy, ITIEC, the Casey. That is the Casey got some tiny Denizia, the Zeki. The car a season. The giant mine hay, I think loud, the Zeki. Indigenous business, the Casey hay. Can't down it.
So there's a number of different things that are going on to work with Indigenous.
A season. Indigenous government go galas and that's a Kiani, the economy, the Karaga, the Masin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess during your investigation and trying to determine the type or magnitude of reclamation you guys are looking at, I guess I'm wondering, once you guys determine, say, Ptarmigan Mine, if that used to be a gold mine, and I'm assuming that there's probably tailings, etc. And
Timete tailings tayagun di teke esila tuisila situle kahulia tin lani teke mendadikis natan sisegani te kala asine chante te honda mikurijana se jiwarisini.
I see Mr. Jericon. Minister?
Detail, I'll turn to the Deputy Minister. Thank you.
Deputy Minister?
We would apply for, thank you, Mr. Chair. We would apply for, maybe I'll just take it back a step further. So we would do work and we would do.
Mekega laita, koteni te mendadikinita. Kote kazit leani te kamaga di ledi kia the go, ikaze lete kegani de. Ita koteni te. The Clinago Chuta Handla news permit de Ka Mentadi Quaita the Mikega later. Masindi.
See, Mr. Jericon?
concludes my questions. Thank you.
Masi, any further questions from committee on this section? Ms. Whelan Armstrong.
I see here in the budget it says the actuals from 395. The main estimates was different and then it went down. So so for the main estimate for this upcoming fiscal year is lower. What happened there? Why is that?
For that detail, I'll just turn to the Deputy Minister. Yeah, because there's a number of avenues.
Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It went up 8,000 from the 2021-22 revised main estimates to 2022-23 main estimates, and that's due to collective bargaining. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Masi, Ms. Whelan Armstrong.
With respect to
Kandi Simaran Tantalita, Tandirante Jitekizata can be curious. Deputy Minister Silati Committee Sikoga Laita, Titekea. Tajiteke Tani Te Kun, Naragani Landi Te Katuum with the Kayati, the Mas
Armstrong.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, committee. Let's see what happened here. Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now that I know which section we're on. Contaminated sites, I'd just like to ask about strategic oil and gas and what's happening with that and where the department is if we're looking.
The contaminated sites at DC. Ratun Dayan di Yuotado Kenneth. Is a case and Dezek Agotego Captile Nezekago do. Tite case. Ratun Tatula Gala Court Yote. Gala Tait or good disease the case de Gala Megurichol, Gala Megalaita. That do in the Jan the Calasia Dule.
Well, thank you.
Masi. There are no further questions on this section. Please turn to page 77. Environment and Natural Resources, Environmental Protection and Waste Management, Operation Expenditure Summary, 2022 to 2023 main estimates, $4,333,000. Does the committee agree? Agreed. Thank you. Environmental Stewardship and Climate Change, beginning on page 79.
Page 79 Ratunda got the 82 information item. Sit goes out to see then. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Chair. PGT Maganda Tizekesio. Tati Kala Magaita 378,000 Aita. Tasitila Maganda Tizekesi Aita climate change Yatagulia Gudi. Climate change Kesi Yatagulia Gute Zekesi Gazanda. Zekesi Mendadi Guanda.
Get damaged, addressing possible health effects, supporting regions that are vulnerable to climate change, maintaining our ecosystems, in the regions, and also the environment. And we've went through years of forest fires. Now we're going through years of flooding. And what's next? Will it be tornadoes, high?
Nisi yeleda shagoti a rongota kandisi gatanda di environmental la si kagana tande dizekesio indi tane te gago je si kagana tayendi.
Minister?
Sorry, thank you very much. Right now, we feel this is the money that we need to move forward, but my Deputy Minister put her head up.
Deputy Minister di Tiesa Tule Kayati. Mr. Chair. Metauda Diatal Reguliaco Dizekesi. Ijika Megogeti Kandigo Yat Aguliaco Dizekeni de Aron at the Kazati, the Tuzeke, Talosi Zekesi, Department Makadi Junazata getting down the Dizeke. Taji Zekesi a condition Panitani Lani della Da Asi Gulia Gute 2021 Zekesi. Tue Kukaku Chazi Zeke Lago de Ji Dagela Kota Zeke Jehonda Kantiagaza Dahali. Da Azozi Sombakanita federal government Zekesi, because the Diazosa Dizeke climate change on the Leendi Masi.
Questions? Thank you.
Any further questions from committee? Ms. Knockleby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can the Minister of the Department comment on how the climate workers, I guess for lack of a better word, sorry, brain dead, how their work interacts with the other departments and how they are working to help inform? You've got the expertise in your department, and I know that it needs to be interconnected.
Department got a legal Kesi or cutting the shit again. Da Kaji Kandi Nigu on the Kesi. Minister sees the Kesitula the Kati, Medico Sanago Galan, Diat Azeke Goseni Dendi.
I see Ms. Knockleby. There's a climate workers question. Mr. Minister?
Well, I'm going to go to the Deputy Minister on that one. Thank you.
Deputy Minister, AG Interdepartment, see a legalagan, Aron, Diatagulia got its Kesio, I wrote legal light down. The said the Hollandi go the department is legalagenda. Can't any damage the Honda Shetago did the Kesi Mikio Dicho. Can't any days was a Tatago did the Kesi Magaitan. That is a Kesi la Kakotini de come and eat as a go. Yatagulia got the Kesi. The department the Kagandin, the machine.
Ms. Knockleby?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, does the department anticipate that maybe needs to change or evolve, or do they see that as working going?
Jagulia Contega Tanti Auguste is a question. A sea song, Sella, tis a question. That is a Kegan, Dani de Yos a Catini de Sanesia. A sea song, Methalan, tis a question. Da Candisi got and Dani Denisuanes. City na Zekati, Tizekesi. Your good department should take it is a case that I did. I really won't can't go on yet.
Deputy Minister, thank you.
Deputy Minister.
Deputy Minister tila teacher na department sika tsari kandi ko galagenda. Ta ki liaison ke ontele a ronte ki ako galaita. Me que jane de ni de. Haji di teke tako di teke juna te kazati. Kaze me galaki e di tegun li ontele kandi te gala tenta teke tako di teke jun. A ron te galai tada zo ya tata ko di teke ji kandi me que di chu. E te galai ta zo liezo ke di de a ontele di masi.
Knockby.
I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Let's see. Let me get this here. Mr. O'Reilly.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So I just want to start by saying that although I ask a lot of tough questions of this department, I do appreciate the work that the staff do, and I know that they're always doing their best. But I do have some questions around climate change and conservation area planning and management over a longer period of time. The Nature Fund protected areas, grants and contributions.
Jesi tae wo kaya ti se kesi la bagasi son batalla. Ko te tu huti jua ja ni magatan tani de tane te son pate kya yin tu gai da gai kandisi ye kaneta. Ya rokuli landi ya se la li tu. Dati ya ta ze ke de koni de indi gai la taile mi lati la don no. Du gai ga la don dia ta la don no. Ze tai la don no taile mi go ze. Fili mi de ka ye don di la de ita ji ze ki wa ta de ka ne se don dia me za ta den di. Yun da ni la go ga ne se ka dia ma ga nda. Ha ji o ti go ze la di son ban de ga. Du ze ke ji ga zhen da di son ba ze ke ga ni de ni.
Yeah, Mr. O'Reilly. Minister.
Thank you. I'll start and then turn to the Deputy Minister. ENR has been exploring potential opportunities to find tail.
The protecting area the DNWT the Somba the Dandi Galanda the la Kandi Somba Lani de Ajuju the government Galagan da Hesse Lande da do yen RC Laka DNWT Plaza the land. The Tiaga Tageti Takata that the others he got and Dani de Mewoti Deputy Minister I do in the end. Mustn't.
Must see, and if somebody could clarify what was PFP also at the same time. Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the Nature Fund fluctuates based on the activities that were planned. So what you
Major funds are going Dani de Otigoto de Takot is the Horata son parts the Chia. Son Basi la Kana Jati go down the Metasi, the Casey Gaita. Got the down the Metasi, Tiani de Naya Tigadiasi. Ita is the Kia, the on the cartant. That the on the Cata Legani de Ka Wako Jisico Galanta. Izake. Yandigo the project she got and Dani de car a season Megas Lagazanda. Taco Sunny Department she go galita to the costing days a kega. Takan dia gaitan. The indigenous government she go galita. The son but the kegan. Masi.
Let's see, Mr. O'Reilly.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. I guess I know I've said this before. I understand a lot of work that has to go into the negotiation of setting these protected areas up, but that's when the real work actually begins. You have to create management plans.
Management plans is the current program that tourism that can protected areas that shoe. Ita Sorry, Deputy Minister, that is a suli. The other Niton body, the other go. Containers was a tule, the CC meta, Gotazandi, Gotago was a kill goes out the other go. Is a key. Co or did you go to La Somba there? He has a legani day. It can't do that water. I do the climate crisis on that. It's a case on that. It's a case of climate change is generally it's a case here. The government come and get us. That a good look at this occasion. It is usually the department structures that can talk about this case, resource gas data. Talk on this case in 2025, because this is gotten 7 years on. You see, the Chicago go DT, the case 2025 the any day 20 the case gotten that. That teacher came that's like the case. Methods they cheer any day come more at the other. So as they cut in down the teacher care. See it on the. You see, it's the guy on the goodly as it landers or do. The minister do the climate prices all the she do the goodly athlete. The Northwest Territories the case. I need any. Must see.
Thank you. So, as the member has said, this is very much infrastructure, that's part of it. As the lead, we work with the
department is Chicago Galaita, Katiati, down the Galaita, the case, car, Yeho Kayati, dark on this one. Must see. Deputy Minister Atila say Galaita did the case. Tanti Mego or the case and Ita Jini de la Car, Cantini de Yatagulia would the case. I does go to department the case. Taji the case candiza, what's and does go on the Taji. Department is here, Hegalagan does go, Nakuna Hegalagan does, something I say, Cecilia, so can't be on
Mr. O'Reilly.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So can we get any details on what the Plan B is? Is that something that the minister can share with standing committee and maybe even the public? Because Plan A from the last assembly is not going to do it. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Merci, Mr. O'Reilly. Minister.
Yeah, that there, I would ask the member to ask questions on that with the infrastructure minister, what Plan B is, because I don't have what Plan B is in front of me, but maybe the deputy minister may have further clarity on how we move forward on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to speak for another department, but my understanding is that infrastructure will do engagement on their next plan. That would be part of the work, and that there needs to be, they're working on their next energy strategy action plan, and they would engage on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Merci.
Ka kandi si da. Ko zai di da kandi si. Ka ji ka dia ka de xian de san di.
About this government's approach to climate change, the climate crisis all along. It's divided up amongst
Ministry Tani Chatzi Leland targeted the climate change Kegasio. Tandi Morati Kegani de Nahiata Tegona Tenata Oka Gondile, a Tandia Ron a Shati Landine Sejiteke, Yita, Disi Morati. Da Yogimo Goteka de Sierra Candigo, Guliago Tizekeni de Megatan Tazago on the Masi.
Merci, Mr. O'Reilly. Minister, you have any comments on that? None at all. Committee, any further, whoops, stuck that lock there. No, if there are no further questions, we can turn to page.
Page 80 ganda. Environment, natural resource, environmental stewardship, climate change, operation expenditures agenda. Is agenda 2021, $14,270,000. Committee gana resume. Masi. The forest management agenda, page 83. Contain the information items, page 86. Sitlego Sahun, forest management here. Then they ka Mr. Johnson, Masi. Di tanete gai go te si la ka COVID te di te kesia di son pa te kesi ga jiga tanda ta di te kesi la kandi kon kya te ke ga ni te mene shi na te ta dia gu li mo da di te ke o me te ka di sene sandi dice que kama gaita tu aji dice que sin tu na hezeni tse gaita tu ka esate mete Hollandia site kandio kala meke gala ita zago dice que sin ta masidi kala me da de ko ta de na je ku jin de la han ni de kha ti le mo ke ta me tsala ko te en di ma si da a si je ke ju kha ko de tia gu de di ko je ke ji go da si ane se la di covid ji one da sa kandi te onze jua ko dandi tu tane te ga ko te si iji se ke ya maga da sa ko sandia ti se ni tene oni tene su ko si tu le minister la zandi iji se ke si 30 million ozo te ni te dia de si yende te bene minister in the end. Da è stato delle cartiati di 14 million to 19 million si con da coti dice che gatan dai te dice che ni te la national me da a di con si chi to coti di le chi da ne ti le i ji kan di ji gatan da yonde da di si la ka san di da si modati dice che ni de ta ajonte che si candini de andeni te catule me se ha con esu anate che anite gira si tale.
I guess I'm wondering what work the department does to kind of look to whether we are spending too much on forest fires. I guess I want to start by saying I think these are some of the best jobs in the whole territory. I have no issue with the $13 million in compensation and benefits here. A lot of good experience and good training comes out of forestry firefighting. But there is $18 million in contract services here. I imagine the vast majority of that is our tanker contract and our helicopter.
Contract che la dandia rohuti tion de 18 million di ni de the helicopter conditions the holiday sound. Da come dati diazo go da is the key one minister situation when is the contract in the la are wrong while in the case.
Mr. Johnson, Minister.
Yeah, so what I can tell you is that we look at it every year.
Magaita is the case. Tu see la Gina Gatella is the Kagaita. Come Kitty John's gone. The fire season the helicopter said la lenide go de gira. Then it gets a little kianide. The contract out the it does the Honda Candia City that do Hesila. Tu see at those Kaditi mega process schooling. Is the Deputy Minister Katuli work on the Nimasi. Tatina the territory that chose the Honda Moda Titi, Candida Casing, then a song the Candy contract in it. Candigo goes the gather clean two good idea. Da down son di contract si la quota si go ani ko ze di dia di kandi si ko za gen di contract si honda ta kandia le zu tiu ki ga go ti kandia de ti andi ni ki na za ze se la le ni se kandi go di ze ke si de ga son ba de chi ta a de ni de the indigenous Dene Zhatıé color I think the Koga Getaji Dandi Kuzan Dizeki Jumesalan. Do a good at Celan dear with he call the Chago Johnny there good liga, good modatia. The contract was in the Denega, Zontea, and in the three Koga day is a Kedasha good. The candidate case Con Sago Chan de Get us on Baku with in detail in Lenny the helicopter here. That can't just eat. As you contract the Lazi the Harda thing, Dagger like he is a Lalandi, mustn't.
Mr. O'Reilly.
No, I already. Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just lost my focus for a minute. Yes, I have a couple of questions I'd like to pursue here. I see that wildfire risk management plans, that there was $275,000 spent last year, and only 75 budgeted for this year. So where did the extra money come from to do the plans?
The management plans that came out was the extra money at the layer. The 2 year Wakaya Tizakation, some was the Kirani day.
Minister.
So this is application based, so the Communities Act apply for it. When we have more applications.
Application Dagoti, the other sorting the other she can't do some but the Tombanizil, that can't do it. That Deputy Minister got to you when it's a Kayatian. Mercy, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, is the Kazi got and Dani de say at the daily court the Kunta Kazi the Yagade. Dandi ko Taida get the Kazi the Hardanes on Tilana Zekaz Dine current and Nichin.
Mr. Chair, I think the risk of fires is only going to increase with the climate crisis. So if there's more applications for funding, the department will find the money to get the work done. Is that what I'm hearing the minister say? Thanks.
The other application I got in the la carte others on Bacana Italian. The application like that in it. mandati go oni de kam ki go ga laita. I can't dia sitin.
Getting the money, I'll come back to the minister to raise that. But the other question I have is, I had a constituent raise with me the issue of being able to cut wood along the Clecho All-Season Road, and apparently was not able to get a wood cutting permit. What is going on with wood cutting along the road, and why wasn't that sorted out?
This is the constituent Kasan di Clechoke Luteke la down diode. Izeke, Yandi. Jiraka, Mentali Quaita, the Clecho government to go laita Dizeke. Because the top plan unit anti. Da cut do Clecho government go laita Dizeke. Da di Diana Zogan Dene de Goze Gute. Do la Kandi Clecho government she. Mega go laita the permit Zeke Dakara. Go Sanake Luteke Ganite, down to the Ziggy Sembody Shole. That is the case. Now, do Clecho government go laita. Down to the Kegan Daisy at the Kota Zeke. Mr. Chair.
Thanks. This is all coming as news to me, so just so I can get this clarified. So the first, from the junction to kilometer 12, ENR is issuing wood cutting permits to anybody, any residents, and then beyond kilometer 12, that's still.
Kilometer 12 go Zaisi la car the cheat said he cargo diali. Minister dia you kilometer 12 on the any day down to the ending. Say the Karishi. Deputy Minister dia. Is you kid 12 see la car. Is you go Zaisi cut said. Can't you use the Kesi Estiatule? Mego la tata the lesson to the Comoras. The Chogamil go to go down. Go Desi go to go there. Go territory on the. Ita is you see la Kako Galaita. A say Galaita that the Kandisi you that number in it on the machine. Nakizati on the.
To give clarity on the permits and stuff like that. Thank you.
Deputy Minister permit you when they are delayed. Mr. Chair, ENR teacher government go galaganda. Aje tasi desi la do interim plan do go gato. Mega plan inita. Got yakasita. That do aje tasi le kesi la. Etagonde aje ke la khani de. The work permit kega. Tandimuri Shoalati, the Kesilaga Kalakagoti, Kalamo, it's a good day, Andy. Masin.
Thing I want to do is interfere.
Minister Situla, you want to take a titi, the kitty, a schoolie landi death. Gitaris. Make you do Janeth. He take a public tree, you get a Jean as a go. Tis a case, tago, tis a case. Masindi.
I see Mr. O'Reilly. Minister?
We can give a commitment to what the process is and how we're doing it. But for communications, before I make
la Kakala, Deputy Minister, you got in the Tago Tizecation. She took a Tizecation. She dondi, make you the Jote Kegani de Hotule, Kotekazeke Kaza Tizon in the Tizeke. The Clicho government Zecation, Kotana Gutiazon. Tizeke Cantini, the Deputy Minister, Kayotian. Tati tu teacher government si DC DC kala Nikona Zekuginde Kakalamiki Galaitaji take a permit ganide. Antiko Ka Meta Megawatan Tati 0 to 12 Kotani day is a game with a buffer zone on the Itaji take 8 to 12 take. Kala Mogute Kala Megotanti Unita I see. I does a go. Daddy Limu Tony de Kicho government handy, Massi. $84 Ghana. Environmental inch expenditures, total main estimate 14 million. Kananazu committee. Kakacheze tani wani de ka chinaditli ni de kantigo nashi. Satsegare gani de kudiji alandinas. Mr. O'Reilly, Mr. Chair, that duty la chair ecclesia DC Dugoga Naza Dujidi motion zeke Kakimo get his standard. I don't know nothing. I mean that motion direct to quality progress to see. What's it? To Koti report of a committee holds a member Decho. Madam Speaker, committee the case Laka Bill 22, 29, 38 Kakala 561 19 the progress the Taji the case committee of the whole is Koti negative GI Masi. Hello, nothing. Motion adopted. Third reading of bills. Orders of the day, Mr. Turk.
Committees, tabling of documents, notices of motion, motions, notices of motion for first reading of bills, second reading of bills, consideration in committee of the whole of bills and other matters, bills 23, 29, and 38, table document 561, report of committee of the whole, third reading of bills, orders of the day.
This House stands adjourned until Thursday, February
2022, 1:30 p.m. 个正大日节呢。